we're still over in EU for the next EU matchup. That'll be the EU semifinals. The winner of this one between Elysium and Team Joystick not only move on to the grand finals, not only get a one-game advantage in a best-of-5, they move on to the SWC, the SMITE World Championship play-in round. So that is very, very important. You at home, though, you're not going to leave this weekend empty-handed. Well, some of you might, but you got a chance to not leave this weekend empty-handed if you go online right now to the Alienware 25-inch monitor giveaway. These monitors are absolutely sick. You go to @SmitePro on Twitter. You'll find all of the information there. It's going on for a few more days, so make sure to get in, enter that giveaway. And, again, you might not leave this weekend empty-handed. And I can personally guarantee you that if you play on one of these monitors, you'll be better at Smite. And that's just simply how it works. So make sure to go to @SmitePro on Twitter and enter the Alienware 25-inch monitor giveaway. I can't do this job alone. I know you all want me to, but I sure can't. Aggro is with me.
I wish you would.
You wish I would? Later. No, please. No, please don't. Elysium versus Team Joystick Aggro in what has already been a slate of contested EU matchups. We've had zero two-game sets. Elysium versus Team Joystick could be the first EU matchup that we've had so far this weekend. That could go 2 games if Elysium are able to show up hot out of the gates in game 1.
Yeah, Elysium typically closes out sets with a strong period. You know, they're coming in hot, but maybe they come out of the gates a little bit lukewarm at times. And this Joystick squad, I don't know, man. I am not putting money on a 2-game set here because I think Joystick has done too much that has been too impressive. You know, there's a lot on the line, and certainly that the veteran presence of a team like Elysium factors in here. But I think Joystick, they're probably awfully hungry to punch that ticket to words.
That's right. We are 3 for 3 on game 3s here in EU. Elysium and Team Joystick sure seem like they are destined for one more 3-game set. The bracket, as I've mentioned previously, this is the game, the EU semifinals. This is the game. You win this one, you are in the best-of-5 grand finals a little bit later on the weekend with all of the bragging rights, prize money, and then, of course, a berth to the SWC qualifier round. All of that in tow. The Kazakhs fan club, what a run that they've had. They go 3 games against Elysium, punch them in the mouth in game 1, and then hand Goodnight Nick their 2nd consecutive loss here this weekend. So Kazakhs fan club will be awaiting the loser between these two teams. And so, Aggro, I mean, you look at Elysium, you look at Team Joystick, the way that these teams are able to go back and forth with one another. And I think really zoning in onto Elysium, it's about whether or not they kind of wake up hungry, I think, is as we've mentioned here. Because, look, game 1, it's gone by the wayside a couple of times. They've only lost like 4 games all year long. They tend to turn things around in game 2 and 3. But when you've got a team with Tarim adapting, Angry, Trixtank, and Spudio, a team that wants to get out early and get out aggressive. And so it is sometimes surprising when game 1 starts off slower. But this is a scary, scary roster.
Yeah, I mean, look, when this team is playing their game, you know, if everyone is playing their best possible Smite at the same time, Elysium will win because they just have the most raw talent. And I think that at times it's hard to come in motivated right away when you know that's the case because you know, hey, as long as we don't mess up, we will win. But I don't think it's really that simple because a team like Joystick has shown that they're coming in with unique strategies and have been impressive in the way that they want to do things. And so you can't just assume, as long as we don't mess up, we will win. You have to actively beat this Joystick team, and certainly Elysium is very capable of doing so. This team, just everywhere on the map, consistently outperforms their opponents. They just do everything really, really well. So by no means am I saying that, you know, they have to play a certain way or else they're hosed or anything like that. It's just that the way that they like to play, a little bit earlier game than a lot of other teams in this region, a little bit more early game confidence, but they can still take it late. You know, it's not like a team that can't team fight by any stretch of the imagination. And adapting has just been playing so well. Games 2 and 3 in their set yesterday, he basically just dominated. And when the meta is so jungle-centric and you've got the greatest jungler of all time on your team, you're going to be favored to win a lot of games.
You're going to be in a just fine spot. And that was after not only a quiet, and we'll reiterate it, not only a quiet game from Elysium in Game 1, adapting notably on the Ewelix pick in Game 1 between Kazakhs Fan Club, didn't really show up Games 2 and 3. Did show up in Kazakhs Fan Club, were worse off for it. But Team Joystick is the opponent, not Kazakhs Fan Club this time. Now, Team Joystick, an interesting team. Now, Azriel, I think it has to be mentioned again. Lamogao, the usual solo laner for this team. Azriel, not only filling in for the set yesterday, but will be filling in for the remainder of the sets here this weekend. Has some competitive experience at this level of SMITE. And I think when you're playing with a sub, sometimes it's easy to relegate that side of the map and just say, survive, please. They handed Azriel an aggressive pick yesterday and actually showed up as one of the stronger parts of this team.
Yeah, he went off yesterday. There's no doubt about it. I thought that he looked like their best player at times in their set up against Goodnight Nick, and that has got to give you a lot of confidence. Now, you got to go up against Terrarem today, but it's not like Deathwalker is a pushover by any means. They did a lot of things very, very well, both on the tier, of course. I wouldn't be surprised if that tier gets banned from Joystick in the second phase if they don't top 3 it, because I think it was that impactful. And then on the Gilgamesh, he was still really, really good, and that's a really good sign for this squad. So I think that when you're looking at the way Joystick are going to play, they often play through sap. They like to play in their mid lane. Echrome, one of the premier Heimdall players in the world, has really set this region alight with that pick because of how dominant he has been on it. Would not surprise me whatsoever to see this team try and play through their mid lane, try and get sap going, but if Azriel's going to play as well as he did yesterday, you've got an option to play through solo legitimately, and that is not something I would have expected coming into a set where they don't have one of their starters.
I think that picks and bans between these two teams, aggro, suddenly become pretty interesting. In my mind, whether or not this will be a factor in picks and bans remains to be seen, and the story will be told in P's and B's for game number 1. I want to know where this Bacchus pick could land later on here in the draft, and I say that because not only did we see it some in our first set of the day, some good, some bad from Calvin, but Trixtank has liked this pick in the past, and the way that Trixtank likes to play the game, aggressive and in your face, synergizes pretty well with him. Are you at all surprised with the rise of Bacchus here this weekend in these SEC playoffs?
No, I think that healing has been a little bit more prevalent in these SEC playoffs, in Europe in particular, so having an 8 anti-heal is really good. And it just turns out that being generally super tanky and dealing good damage and having good CC is like really good as a support. So I think Bacchus is probably underplayed overall, so it doesn't really surprise me too much, as it is a tier ban, interestingly enough, here from Elysium. And one thing that I think we didn't talk about enough yesterday is that, yes, Azriel surprised us all with the level of play, but teams have been playing against Joystick all phase long and then playing against what in solo? Kumba, Kabrakan.
Right.
Kabrakan with like Bancroft's Rush.
The Lamogao specials.
Right. They're playing against Mogao nonsense over there. And Mogao was very successful with it, for the record. But it was still nonsense, and I won't say anything else. Now Azriel's playing like warriors and different looks, and so it changes the way you have to pick and ban against this team. And I think that even with a day's prep for Elysium, they got 3 games of seeing what Azriel's God pool is like and how he's going to play and how the team's going to play around him. And in some ways, I think that's a pretty big advantage here for Joystick.
Yep. Well, Team Joystick, they still will eat a few solo lane bans, dish out a couple on their own anyway. 4 of what we assume to be solo lane picks get banned out in that first wave. Izanami in there as well as the Geb on the other side. That, of course, is going to leave the Tiamat open. And we mentioned Sap as a PowerPoint for this Team Joystick team. Angry is the same for this Elysium squad. You're giving a very good pick, if not one of the best in the game right now, over to one of the mid laners here in the EU SEC that has been playing very, very well.
Agreed. It's certainly a risk if you're going to give up this Tiamat. I mean, but Odin, Geb, Cthulhu, those are all very strong picks in their own right. So at some point you got to give something up, and they decide it's going to be the Tiamat. I think that it can be handled. I think that you can pick a god in the mid lane that can either out-pressure it early or scale with it. I don't think you're out-scaling Tiamat at any point, but you can pick things that do well in the late game anyways. It's just a matter of what sort of strategy you want to go with in your mid 3v3. Fafnir immediately tells me that they aren't necessarily looking for super early skirmishes. Fafnir, not a great god in the laning phase, but as soon as he gets towards that late game, you start using him around those objectives. That's where his true strength comes in.
How about this? This feels like, aggro, the Cucullin feels like a Terrarem style pick. In the same way that a few of the gods you listed were Mogao specials, feels like Terrarem and Cucullin go pretty well with one another over there in that solo lane. So now that's going to have to be something that Azriel goes into this lane knowing, look, Terrarem likes to play this pick, likes to play it aggressively. It's an in-your-face style pick. Not something, aggro, that we've seen prioritized all that heavily this weekend, if at all. does Cullen have a spot in the current meta, and do you think it can be successful here for Elysium?
I think it can. I think you have to play around it. You cannot just assume that this Cullen is going to get his lane dominance and then be able to transition to the later phases. Yes, he should get pressure over there in duo, or in solo rather, but I want to see it basically become duo. I want to see Adapting come over there and consistently sit on this lane and get Terrorem ahead and get Azriel behind. And if I'm Azriel, I'm thinking, okay, I got to pick something here. Tyr is banned, so the obvious lane dominant pick isn't going to be there for him. You have to assume that you're going to be weak side here for your team, that there is going to be consistent jungle pressure on your side, and Joystick are either going to have to play around that pretty well. Merlin doesn't usually get great mid priority, but up against Tiamat should be okay. Not my favorite skirmisher in the early to mid stages of the game, so I don't know how much help he's going to get out of the mid lane rotations. I'm interested in seeing what Sarpei is going to pick, because I think that if I'm Azriel, I'm going, yo, Adapting is going to be here on my blue, on respawn. We need to be ready to fight.
Yep. I mean, King Arthur gives you the ability to scrap a little bit, but maybe
Sure.
the junglers make the difference there. One of the two junglers is going to get locked in here. Tsukuyomi for Adapting down the stretch. Better believe that Elysium are going to be active on the map there. Ganesh, I think, holds a soft spot in my heart, Aggro, but, but you and Miff discussed it a little bit during the cast there in our first set of the day. 50% win rate maybe does this god justice.
Yeah, I think that it has its good matchups. I do think it's a pretty good matchup into the Fafnir, because Fafnir is a god that is going to put himself in one place for a long period of time, and you can easily put up Dharmic Pillars, immediately remove obstacles him as soon as he goes into that Draconic Corruption, and all of a sudden he gets one tapped off his ult. Though that feels really good. Even if you don't have your ultimate, you can silence him, make sure he doesn't jump away. That feels pretty good. I don't mind the Ganesh into what we see on the other side for Joystick. I don't love it overall, but against things like Arthur, it ends up being pretty good against Hunbats, against the Fafnir, against Merlin. I've seen worse Ganesh comps for sure.
Well, that's a fight on one side of the map. I want to return to that solo lane conversation. It looks like Cullen plus Tsukuyomi versus King Arthur plus Hunbats on blue buff skirmishes. Are you feeling like Elysium has the priority there, or did Joystick draft well enough to counter it?
I don't think Hunbats comes close to being enough to defend that blue. I'm expecting Adapting and the rest of Elysium heavy on that right-hand side.
Elysium, the tournament favorites, up against Team Joystick, looking for the upset. Game number 1 with J-Mac and Trelly.
Thank you so much, Dave and Aggro. Jumping right into game number 1, Elysium and Joystick. As he said, it's J-Mac and Trelly joining me here on the cast. We got Doug, as always, being the spectator of the gods here on the battleground. And man, what a start that we get to have for our day. We get to see our first team eliminated, and now we move into the second match of the day. Winner of this one gets an automatic pass, not just to the grand finals, not just for the advantage, but they get to go to the world's placement rounds. Loser of this one has to make a nice little run down in the lower half of the bracket.
It's going to be an exciting one, and one thing to definitely look at is going to be this solo lane, Azriel. This is supposed to be the sub. This is supposed to be, you know, this player that is just filling in, and he has been having an unstoppable performance, and now he's going to be on the King Arthur, a character that can really brawl in this solo lane. It's going to be exciting to watch.
I mean, it's gone so far as they're already target banning him, and that's got to say a lot. You know, generally we do see support or subs typically come in, they take over that solo lane. That's kind of the role that you can just kind of pick and place people no matter what here. But the fact that we're seeing direct respect bans off his games yesterday does speak volume towards this player, Azriel, with a strong tier performance that game 1 yesterday. We do see that, and the Nike banned away here by Elysium for their first game. See if they can get some advantage for themselves. Team Joystick have already got a little bit of pressure here in this duo lane, this Heimdall Fafnir with a nice little bit of wave clear.
Already, I'm seeing this Hunbats with the blink start. We love to see it. Sarpei is going to be getting very aggressive, but that does mean that there's no beads available. It's going to be very annoying if Trix is ever near this Hunbats.
Trixtank and Echrome both eating some hefty poke from these hunters. Trixtank ran forward against Echrome, who got slammed by the banner, but now we see some of the patented jungle level 2 potential ganks here. Do you see Sarpei walking over towards the Harpies? A blink in against Trixtank, throws out the Sacred Monkey, teleports to Spudio, a jump right in place with the somersault, and the Heavenly is popped, but they're not fully committing to going for the kill just yet. Instead, Spudio and Trixtank do manage to make it out. A very expensive invade here for Team Joystick. They use both the blink and the Heavenly to come up empty-handed.
Unfortunate. I don't think that jump slow hit from Sarpei. If it did, the beats was already done, so that would have been a pretty confirmed kill there. But nonetheless, you do get the beats. You can come back if you have another chance, if you really want to look at the elephant again.
Level 5 will be that big number for Sarpei. It'll be the big one for Adapting. That's really where a lot of the junglers tend to shine as they get that big power spike of that ultimate. Hunbots in particular really loves hitting that 5 Fear No Evil, so potent if you can guarantee that somebody doesn't have CC immunity, like Trickstank on this Ganesh. And with those beads being down, could be a prime target for him.
Absolutely, and one thing that we have not seen much this tournament, we've seen some Bumba Spears in the duo lane, we've seen some cows. The Death's Toll, a prime pick for this Heimdall because of that cleave auto. You get big heals on the last tick of that, so we're going to have a lot of sustain coming from Echrome.
Yeah, it feels like it's been a while, and really just this god that we've been seeing this starter item on, so curious how Echrome will do with it this game around. So he'll have a little bit of natural sustain via way of his auto attacks from that starter item. Won't have direct lifesteal, at least until he upgrades it, but for now the duo lane has held some control here for Team Joystick. They've been able to net themselves about 300 gold lead early on in the game, which isn't anything really all that massive, but Silence going for the invade here up against Spudio and Trix, but as long as you get 2 there, you can try and body block the hammer. It's not necessary. Silence leaps in, and it may have spelled a little bit of danger for him. He'll get stunned out. He'll get knocked up by Trix Tank. The banner drops right on Silence's head. Echrome is here to make sure that his support does not go down, but Silence eats so much poke going for that invade.
That's a tanky dwarf right there. He just jumped on the purple buff, no fear at all. He did get smacked a little bit, but you know, it was a free invade. He tried his best, didn't get it, doesn't work, but adapting still, not looking at these blue buffs. He's just being proactive in the farm. I really would have expected him to be on that respawn, but it looks like he's respecting Beazriel right now. Maybe they'll go for a fight later.
Doesn't have much time left where he can really make a gank towards this King Arthur, though. I mean, typically these physical defense items are some of the first ones that these solo laners go for, especially if they're up against another warrior. So I gotta imagine that adapting doesn't have much more time before he can start making these big ganks on Azrael.
Yeah, I mean, especially when he gets that ult, that's really going to have some sort of die potential because King Arthur just has so much to juke around with, and you know, you can also knock up the stun. So yeah, I see once he gets that light, that's when he'll probably head that way, if he even thinks that it's useful to gank at this point, because King Arthur, like you said, once that mystical mail or even sovereignty that we've seen gets finished, it's going to be a lot of defense.
Yeah, it doesn't have option for either of those with the startup. Trix Tank misses the knockup from that remove obstacles. Instead, Silence will use his own leap and go ahead and get away. Level 5 now for both of the junglers. You see adapting, starting to hunt towards this left side of the map. Sarpé instead, he went back to base and picked up his big power spike of the Jotun's Wrath. And Trix and Spudio, just for a little bit of a boxing matchup here in the duo lane. And they're both level 5. Silence hasn't hit that mark just yet. Still waiting for a couple more minions to get that ult.
We got some sparks flying over here, but just going to be some old juice. This is the kind of brawl you see in the solo lane. They're just ulting waves at this point. They can. Why not? No, they know there's no one coming over. Blue buff is about to spawn, but neither jungler is even remotely over there. Adapting sort of, but at those mid camps.
Sarpé is over at the red buff. Angry's clearing out his by himself, and it'll just be a state of farm for both these teams. A nice little early skirmish earlier on, but now those beads, that blink, and the sprint are all back up respectively for the players who use those relics. We see Adapting just clearing out his waves on the right-hand side. Sarpé got his speed buff a little bit earlier than Adapting, so he has an opportunity to go for a gank, but it doesn't seem like either of these junglers are interested in the fight right now. It seems they're just more in tune to going for the farm. Instead, it's the fight in duo lane. Silence used the leap in place on Spudio, and that potentially could have sealed his doom. But there's not enough follow-up here. Trixang and Spudio not willing to commit up against him, so Silence will get a walk away. Now Sarpé here in the mid. Minions will make sure he doesn't blink in. Angry does make it out too.
That's a lot of damage there, but Echrome on that Heimdall is just so safe. He just has so many options as that character. I mean, you have your ultimate, you have the Bifrost, and just it looked like it could have been a lot of damage, but I don't think he was really worried at that point. These are just some slap fights, and it's just going to be the farm game right now. But already, look at this small but sizable gold lead from Team Joystick.
Now we do see a Gauntlet of Thebes picked up here for both the supports. Team Joystick does hold about a 400 gold lead up over Elysium, and that's all just in the neutral farm itself. But the Scorpion is started by Elysium. Sarpé's here to maybe deter them from going any further. They've got a decent amount of burst damage, but Sarpé's got some of his own. Maybe it'll just be a fight order for the Scorpion. Fear No Evil secures it in a quick leap out by Sarpé. Silence gets caught out, a stun, a leap in from Angry, the knockup just off the mark, but it's the piercing Moonlight out of Adapting that will deal the final ticks of damage. Adapting strikes first blood for Elysium, and Spudio in off the EI Jutsu gets a second. Echrome has the Bifrost to get himself out, but it's already 2 up on the board for Elysium.
I can't believe Sarpé used the ult to confirm the Scorpion.
Is that 3?
But this could be it.
Echrome under the tower needs all shots. Banner from Spudio picks up a double kill and puts now a 3rd kill on the board for his team.
That is a Crusher Hachiman right there. That is every single one of those abilities, barring the one, is going to be chunking right now. And as you see, that Heavenly Banner is going to be able to finish that kill there. Beautiful play.
Look at the stacks that Trixtank got from that one little fight. He walked out of the base with a brand new Gauntlet of Thieves, and then he and his team decided to choose violence, and he got immediately 25 stacks on that item. A couple of them coming from the minion wave, but he picks up 15 just in that team fight alone. Gotta feel good as a support player getting some big early stacks on that item.
Yeah, unfortunately for Sap, no Charon's coin stack there. They have no kills on the board for them now. Elysium, the ball's in your court. Usually, right, you see them, they throw this game one. We've seen it a few times. This is not the case. Once they get the lead, Adapting's got a kill under his belt. He's hungry. He's going to be looking for more. The Gold Fury's on the table. They're going to have to keep it warded to make sure.
Yeah, historically, in the games that Elysium has lost of a set, excluding a full set loss, it's been more often that game number one. The only game two that they dropped, I think, was against like the Snake Hunters or something like that, way back in the day, in the early half of the phase. But Elysium here now able to pull themselves up in a little bit of a lead, about 500 to their tune after being down about 400 or 500. So a nice 1K swing in that last little fight, and you can see where some of that experience is starting to tip in their favor. One level each for both of the duo lane.
I just want to see some aggression here from the jungle. It looks like that's what Sarpé was going for, but it looks like they were none the wiser, so they're just going to back out there. Sarpé going to have to find a gank elsewhere, get some harpies and back off. But Echrome is going to have to be careful here because, again, Adapting does have a kill under his belt, and whenever you see this man get a lead, he loves to push it, and it seems like he's already chosen that solo lane is off the table for right now. Where else is he going to go?
He's got Mystical Mail online for both of the solo laners, and both of them going towards their second physical defense item. Seems to maybe be Void Shield, but will hold that as Silence gets hit by the pillars. A quick leap out. Hammer off the mark, but now Angry has used his damage. His CC immunity is down with the Purification beat. Sarpé's ult expended for it. Adapting will be able to walk away. Taram now in the middle of 4. He'll hit 2 with the knockup. Sarpé is in danger, but he's got the somersault to get over the wall. It's Taram versus 3, and he may be able to turn this fight back around with the help of the Piercing Moonlight out of Adapting. Damage not quite enough on the Savin. Needs the Caltrops to finish the job, but Azrael turns it around and trades it as a 1-for-1.
That was a beautiful rotation by Taram, just absolutely teared up the backline, and then Adapting does go in, and the trade, I'm sure they're happy with that. At least they're on the Boyd team Joystick, but Adapting gets another kill as well. I gotta say, though, getting a kill on Azrael is a huge deal in this game.
Getting one for Azrael, getting a second kill now for Adapting. He's picked up his Crushers, going towards his Morning Star, and, well, now is the point where we've seen so often in these couple of matchups has just been once dual lane gets a little bit of pressure, it's all about that purple buff, but right now it's Trixtank who needs to worry about his own health bar, as he takes a lot more than he bargained for up against Echrome and Silence. Even though they were a level up, each of them for Elysium's duo, they end up losing that little trade. So the purple buff does get secured for Team Joystick.
We've been seeing Trix play these aggressive Guardians, right? But lately we have seen the Ganesh pick, but he's going to go into some damage at some point. He always does. The question is Trix going to go into a flat pen item right now so those Dharmic pillars are really chunking, or is he going to go into the Pridwin first? And it looks like I get my question answered for me. He's going to go for the Pridwin first. I really want to see this Ganesha chunking in a little bit.
I mean, we've been seeing so many Spear Desolations and Divine Ruins coming out of the supports. It always feels good. Gods like the Fafnir are really good at applying that, but Angry only going to get hit by a little bit of the damage from Sarpé's ultimate. He'll push him away. His beads were still down, but he doesn't even need them. No major follow-up coming out of Team Joystick here off that Fear No Evil, so Angry, he'll get to live to see another day. Maybe not Azrael, though. He's taking a lot.
Both of these mid laners have not seen too much action this game. They've just kind of been sitting back in the farm zone. If that Fear No Evil, if Angry was in the middle of that Fear No Evil, there's a chance. But, you know, the beads are going to be back up at this point. Missed opportunity, and that's all right. It's kind of hard to kill a TMN anyway. She's got a lot of tools at her disposal if she lived the full duration of that taunt.
Look at this small lead that Sarpé has got for himself, even though his last couple of Fear No Evils haven't netted him much. He does have a 1-level lead up and even gets back and finishes Crusher right after the Jotun's Wrath. So a lot of power and some early flat pen online. Most probably that 20% CDR. That Fear No Evil, very long cooldown on that ability, but because he's picked up some of this CDR, could tone it down just a little bit.
You see how much that Heavenly Banner hit Echrome for. This Hachiman is going to be chunking, but there is a lot of damage on this pick as well, and Adapting is lurking over here, and I've got a feeling Echrome, the character that can, on the Heimdall, that can see everything and everyone, knows exactly where he is right now.
Well, Adapting cancels his back, maybe try and go for a second opportunity, or towards this red buff. Sarpé and Silence are here, drops the Caltrops. Silence will eat some damage from the Typhoon out of this mid lane Tiamat. He'll eat the knockup, but that's about it from there. Thought maybe we'll see a little bit more, but team's not willing to full commit over towards that red. It does look like that one may have been stolen away. We don't see Sap going towards it just yet. Asriel, he'll just choose violence on the right side, and that's just the name of the solo lane game. You walk up, you smack him for a little bit, you send him under tower, and you just go back to clearing waves.
It should be noted that Trix did steal the way. That was an alpha play. He was by himself, then adapting came over, but he stole it by himself, and I want to give credit where credit is due. This man walks up to the buff and says, I don't care if you guys are coming. This buff is mine, and I'm leaving with it. But unfortunately, he had the support buff on him, so wasn't allowed to pick up his trophy afterwards.
He doesn't need it anyways. He already does a lot of damage. I mean, Mifflin highlighted. He's got the hardest hitting ultimate in the entire game. No other god can hit it harder. There is an asterisk with that, and that is against gods. It is the hardest hitting. Against minions and whatnot, maybe not so much. But Asriel feeling a little bit of the pressure back against this Kakulin. Kind of the double stance switcher here, just in different lights. The King Arthur able to switch himself on every ability cast. Terram only able to switch on certain conditions when he does hit that higher rage meter. But he starts eating some of that damage right back. Void Shield versus the Glad Shield for the solo laners.
Yeah, I'm seeing so much physical protection here. Unless these mid laners are making the rotation over. Ooh, Sarpei was looking to try to catch Spudio out, but had the mounted archery gonna be okay there. But as I was saying, the Mystical, the Glad Shield for the King Arthur, and then the Mystical and the Void. Unless these mid laners make a trek over to solo lane, it doesn't seem like they're gonna be in any danger anytime soon.
And they do start working on their magical defense now to be a Silver Talisman for Terram, and then the Enchanted Kusari on the side of the Asriel. So now they'll get their magic and they'll say, okay, now we might start joining these fights. Now the mages and the supports might be a problem as we start rotating maybe towards this Gold Fury and get some fights going. So they'll start getting their defenses going. It's a Transcendence out of adapting. Already got a few stacks there, and Sarpei, I was going to say he's doubling down, but he's actually triple downing on this Mace Tree, going for his third one.
I'm just admiring Team Joystick's farm game because they're down 4-1, but they're up in gold at this point, and they're going to be able to just keep this lead up if this continues. So I'm just wondering when this Gold Fury is going to get pulled. Neither of these teams really see an opportunity. Even with the picks that Elysium had, they didn't feel comfortable doing it, and now it's at the point where, you're going to have these rotations from the solo lane. You're going to have some big team fights coming up soon.
Silence eats the Cyclone, eats the stun from Angry, and maybe some damage from that Primordial Onslaught right after. And he will eat about a quarter of his health bar. But it's been a lot of solo farming for the mid lane. Sap was left alone for a good part of the early game. Sarpei has pretty much just been exclusively farming inside this jungle. We've seen a couple instances of the Fear No Evil, but no major fights breaking out for Sarpei where he really wants to full commit with the rest of his team.
Yep, this is one of those important placement games here. You gotta be careful, so I guess no one wants to really overcommit, but hold that thought. Team Joystick is feeling confident with this Merlin burn.
Trix Tank drops the Dharmic Pillars. It's a Fear No Evil in response, and Elysium just that easy. Give it to him every single day of the week. Red buff, doesn't matter. Gold Fury, doesn't matter. Trix Tank, the god of the steals.
That Fear No Evil was just a little bit early. If he waited a bit, there's no way Trix could have had a chance. No one was even in range, but this man doesn't miss. When Trix sees something to confirm, he throws it, and he's ready.
Okay, who needs Dharmic Pillars? Because I don't think Dharmic Pillars even touched the objective. That was all Turn of Fate. Turn of Fate giving him so much extra little boost there and able to steal not just the red earlier on, but now his own objective. Trix Tank looking sharp here for Elysium, and we get a nice little front row seat on the replay here where Trix Tank does manage to steal this objective. Hopefully we'll get that soon. Production told me we get it. Maybe we do. Yes, we do. Finally jumping in there. Trix Tank. Just the cheekiest little seal. He just walks up, and you know what he wants to do. He wants to be here. He wants to take the buff, gets feared out, and then he just says, all right, cool. Thank you for doing all the work for me.
Just, you hate to see it, but you also love to see it, because Trix is that aggressive player that's always going in, and now Elysium is going to get the prize, unless, nope, Asriel, that's the only steal tool. That's the only steal tool you have. But you love to see it, because again, Trix is always in this aggressive stance. He's always up, playing up, even as this supporty guardian, this Ganesh, and he's reaping the benefits now. The red buff, we've already seen him steal away. The Gold Fury is a huge objective, and now they get the Pyro. And now Elysium, that gold lead is back in their favor.
And he did that without a power item. That was that Prudwin coming in after giving him his defenses. Then he goes a cloak. So that was just all the base damage of Ganesh stealing that one away. A couple hundred damage from Turn of Fate. And Trix Tank now level 13 on the Elephant with that Gold Fury steal. Puts Elysium back in the lead now, about 1,000 gold up over Team Joystick here, 16.5 minutes in. Experience with that has now netted itself back to neutral, which is interesting because they stole the Fury, but the goal or the experience is going down on their side, actually.
I'm just looking at Terram's build right now. With this colon, with the transformation shield, with the bulwark shield, mystical void, there is so much prots. I can't see this man ever being into danger. Hold that thought. Trick sees some action.
He's gonna throw out the Minotaur minion from Angry, and a Dharmic Pillar's expended, but not much more beyond there, except now the piercing Moonlight end of adapting, ripping through the backline, but it's only really gonna find Silence. Big stun and a transformation. Fear no evil out of Sarpei, and Angry in danger, but he'll be able to leap away with the help of the Aegis, and an ultimate out of the solo laner. Azrael's rotation picks up the first kill of the fight, and Sarpei grabs Trixang now with Spudio, only having the ultimate as a way of escape, and he's gonna have to use it. Terram picks up Sarpei, and now in the middle of 4, Terram's gonna need to find his escape path out.
Oh, and a beautiful stun, and Azrael's still chasing! You gotta be watching your back, Spudio!
The Bluestone pendant gets the kill. Terram, even being sent through the realms, does manage to make it out alive. It's a 4-4-0, or it's a 3-4-0 swing here. 3-for-1. I can't count. I don't do math. I'm not supposed to do math, and I did.
At
and I
this
failed.
point, I was right. Terram is unkillable. You know who's not? Anyone else. So right now, the Fire Giant is being pulled, and I'm sure he's aware of it, but is he going to make it over there in time? It's just Azrael is on zone duty right now.
Silence is low. He could fall to this Fire Giant if they don't burn it quick enough. He'll get away from the knock-up. He doesn't have many places to go. 2 rocks, and the course that may have just actually saved his life. I think that course was there, but now he's got to depend on the carries for the damage, and they will be able to grab that one. A very close call by Team Joystick, maybe just very calculated. They'll trade out the Azrael's life, but all that zoning nets them the best objective on the map, the Fire Giant, at 18.5 minutes.
That is quite a quick FG, probably the quickest we've seen thus far, and Azrael is probably pretty happy to trade his life for that at this point, because you do have the Fury responding pretty quickly as well. You should be able to push down at least a few of these towers. You got FG on 4. I mean, that was just a great rotation. He ended up cleaning up 2. I believe he might have, no, he definitely got the 2. And just, Azrael's been playing out of his mind.
This is, again, for those who are unaware, this is the coach/sub of this team. This isn't their regular solo laner. That's normally given over to Lemogao. But I think Agro brought up a really good point on the desk is all this time, Elysium and everybody in the EU has been fighting Lemogao, fighting this weird nonsense that he always brings out to the table. They're not used to the conventional stuff out of Team Joystick's solo laner. It seems to be throwing some of these teams for a loop.
Yeah, as you said, the weird nonsense. We're talking about things like first item Bancroft's Cabrakan solo and just absolutely stomping with these picks, right? Like this isn't like, oh, he whipped out Mulan like Deathwalker. This is like, wait, can you even do that in solo lane? And yes, the answer is yes. But as we said, Lemoga's not here. Azrael has to fill that role as a traditional solo player. And not only does Elysium have to adapt to it, but I'm sure Team Joystick had to adapt to it a little bit as well.
Yeah, Team Joystick's definitely gotten used to it, though, as they do hold a small lead here over Elysium, about 1,000 gold up over the #1 seeded team in EU. Quick Fear No Evil gets the mounted archery out of Spudio, and then a quick retreat now, but it's all to try and set up for this Primal Fury. But if we know one thing, this Primal is not safe as long as anybody's here. Terram in the backline with an ultimate, doesn't find anybody, and has to go on a swift retreat. The Cyclone comes out, but won't get any damage off after that. Nearly all ults expended on the side of Elysium, only adapting and Trix holding on. But at the same time, Silence, Echrome, and Azrael still holding on to theirs.
This is a risky call no matter which way you slice it. Trix is here. They have vision, but it looks like they might go for the burn here. Here comes the Dharmic Pillars.
Primal does get reset, so it's not going to be stolen away. It's not going to be taken. Transformation out of Silence. And immediately he'll turn their sights right back at the Primal Fury. This consistent dance, and with everything expended except for adapting Zolt, Elysium not willing to contest this Fury this time around. That will go once again, or this time it actually will go to Team Joystick. I almost said once again, but I forgot almost that Trixang did steal that first one away.
Well, it looks to me like that's going to be the first prize of many for this FG. If they decide, Pyromancer is definitely on the table, but they are not grouped for the Tier 2 tower push that you would see. Looks like they're just going to take their Pyromancer here. They may have time for one more push if they really power through, but it looks like they're going to be able to reset, get some items online. They're not too confident in this Tier 2 push just yet.
And they've used up pretty much all of their Fire Giant buff. Only a minute left, and they've gotten, what, a tower and a Fury. That's about it. Typically with that first Fire Giant, you want to strip as many of these towers off the map as you can, but there's still Tier 1 standing on this right side. That solo lane hasn't dropped just yet, and then every Tier 2 tower still standing here. Team Joystick haven't really got much off this Fire Giant.
Well, yeah, usually you have a bit of a gold lead when you get this Fire Giant. The game was pretty much even during that call. They got it, and then Elysium said, hey, we could still fight. So they end up fighting at the gold period for a lot longer than you might expect, and then now you wasted most of your fire. But there still is time if they decide to make one last push. They didn't even get the Pyromancer here, and it looks like they're going to be grouping around it shortly. It looks like these tier 2s will be safe until this next FG.
Yeah, it seems Joystick do want to stagger these objectives on the map for their timers. Fire Giant will come up in about 1:15 once their buff falls away, and then the Pyromancer going down shortly after that Fury on the left side of the map. So one final prize off that Fire Giant push. Team Joystick end up coming up with about a 3,500 gold lead at the end of the day over Elysium. Still down in kills, fairly even across the board in experience, about a level in a couple of different roles, but most of these players are hitting that level 20 point, so that experience starting to matter less and less.
Oh yeah, Sarpe already has that Bumba Spear online. A luxury adapting does not have just yet. That level 20 is a huge power spike for these junglers, and that's saying something, because this base tree is already very solid. So with the fact that this starter item gives you a lot of true damage on your auto attack, it's just going to be a big power spike that adapting definitely wants to hit before this FG, but Sarpe is lurking.
Adapting gets hit by the Fear No Evil, but used the Aegis to go through the entirety
Beautiful
of it.
jump!
But it doesn't matter. The damage is too much between Silence and Sarpe, and now it might be Tarum in danger, sunned out by the solo laner, and Tarum has to go on a full retreat. Team Joystick on a warpath here to maybe take game 1 off the #1 seed. They'll at least be able to get 1 kill for their trouble.
Sarpe played that absolutely perfectly. Adapting, held on to the bees, or maybe they weren't just up yet. They are now. He just Aegis the ult, and then just jumped over the stun to confirm the kill. Just perfectly played by Sarpe. And now this FG, I mean, it's going to be a toss-up. You do not have your jungler here.
Trix Tank is here, though. The Master of Steels himself. Will he be able to grab another one away from Team Joystick? Angry throws out the Minotaur for some damage and does hit Silence. He's lost a nice little chunk from the poke, but the Fire Giant is started up by Team Joystick, and Angry does not want to let this one go for free, but neither does Azrael towards Angry's life. Angry will get hit by some damage and have to leap away, but Silence is looking a little worse for wear. He'll have to go back to the base. It looks like it's a full retreat call here for Team Joystick. A few members backing, a few members just walking back.
I can't believe it. They were just, I mean, I guess I do believe it, because it is a big call here. This could be the FG that decides the game if the fight goes that way, so they don't want to call it, even with the 5v4, even with Adapt King being in base dead at the moment. They did not feel comfortable enough. They forced out Angry's leap, but you know what? They said, let's go back. We still have more leads to get. Maybe they'll get one more Primal Fury. Who knows at this point what their plan is, but we are seeing power spikes all across the board. That is going to be a full build for Sarpe. The Heartseeker is finished. That Hoonbats is going to be slamming.
Wonder if that was a misbuy from Adapting earlier. I just checked over. He's got tier 2 of the Charge Morningstar, and then he's also got a tier 1 right behind it, so he didn't even finish the current item that he's building. So to me, this just shows he wants to go for the full tree, or maybe you think he just bought it for just some quick early power.
He was level 19, and he wanted to save up to buy Bumba Spear 20, but he didn't want to buy nothing, so he just bought the tier 1, and now he got the Bumba's Hammer, rather, because you have a lot of cooldown spam with that Tsukuyomi. I have been seeing Adapting picking up a lot of this Hammer. Most of these junglers have been favoring the Spear, but if you're going to be spamming your abilities a lot, the Bumba's Hammer is a great route as well. Either way, he just wanted to make sure he got that full Hammer at 20 and had some gold in hand.
Fire Giant started down to half. Only Silence still in the pit. Everybody else has already escaped the area, and will just let Silence eat a little bit more damage. Tarum eats a stun, and Silence gets 3 hits of that Eagle's Eye auto from Spudio. He'll have to back away. Has the course to heal himself back up, toss it on to himself or some of his allies. He'll give it to E-Chrome for a little bit of extra attack speed and power. And E-Chrome will throw up the sword just for some vision. But that's really about all the Team Joystick has right now, is vision on their half of the map. But you can see the Elysium side of that Fire Giant is peppered with their own wards.
It looks like we're just going to see another back off here. The Fury is up, but, oh, hold that thought. E-Chrome is pulling it by himself. He does have that Death's Embrace, insane healing on that Heimdall right now. He really can tank this while the whole team zones, but does he have the DPS to do it? The answer is no. They're going to reset it once again.
Does have the Aussie too, so he's got a little bit of extra lifesteal, and he's been going for kind of this Crusher, Aussie, and then crit dominance immediately after. We've been seeing this build finish with a Deathbringer. We'll see if that's where E-Chrome elects to go at the end of it. Again, Fire Giant gets started up just by E-Chrome, but Silence is the one at the front of all of it, taking the damage from Elysium. Another Cyclone drop by Angry just to zone them away And this Fire Giant dance, we are no strangers to it here in the EU region. These teams really depend on this Fire Giant for those closeout plays, but we've also seen games ended on just one dance.
If we are just going to be doing the poke battle here, I mean, I can't imagine they like this, right? Angry has so much range. I mean, sure, Merlin's got range as well. Sap has the ability, but you got the Soul Reaver, one that just Tiamat just destroys you, right? The two, it's such long distance. You don't have to put yourself out of position. I'm not sure they want this poke battle. Silence keeps getting poked out, and they really can't pull this FG effectively. We might be looking at an EFG here by the time this fight actually starts.
I mean, they've been sitting here for a few minutes, and we're just about 3 minutes away now from that enhanced spawning through. But this is one of the benefits that having a Tiamat gives you, is that if you are sitting inside of these Fire Giant dances for so long, you can just drop a set of lizards out in the middle of the jungle or out in one of the lanes and allow it to start pushing left side. Has a couple of them running up that area of the map. Still a tier 1 tower there that they can help take away. But for now, we'll just be another group up here for Team Joystick, but Silence is standing on pretty much every single ward imaginable that he could.
Take a look at Angry's build. Opts to not finish the Obsidian Shard for that extra percentage pen, and opts to go for the Bloodstroked Shroud, finishing that upgrade. That means Angry is going to be extremely tanky, which Tiamat already is. Very hard to kill this character now.
Not just that, so much extra healing. Silence gets a stun against Trickstank, and that's the go button for him. Draconic Transformation immediately after, and Dharmic Pillars met with Tarum, goes in with the ultimate, only finds one off the knockup, and his sights are set on Sap. Fear no evil, zones Angry away, but Sap is the one in danger by Tarum and adapting. The two team up to take him down. A leap away from Sarpé and no ultimate means he has no more safety. The Silence out of this Ganesh is enough to slow him down, but Angry needs a little bit more damage and some help from Spudio. Echrome gets at least one. Silence teams up to take out Spudio, but after a long engagement, it's a 2-for-2 left at the end of the day. 6 members fall. Maybe they'll be able to pick up Angry here. Silence sleeps in, but it's a D-transform. Echrome gets stunned out, and Angry might just be out because of it.
If Silence had 3 more seconds on that transformation, I think he might have been able to find it. Echrome with a beautiful ult to send adapting out of this fight. He was left to free cast there. That's the only reason that went so well. He's going to TP in.
Echrome goes in aggressively against the 2, uses the Aegis, and now Silence is here. Coerce has been popped, and the 2v2, it's Echrome coming out on top. Angry on the run, but it's just Silence here to hold him off, and the damage from Angry might be enough to just potentially take out this tank. But no, it is not. Silence does leap over the wall. A huge play coming out of Echrome.
They are lucky that Echrome did not have that Deathbringer finish, because he was already critting so much just with that Wind Demon. Very insane play for him to just go in. I mean, he knew Silence had his back, but Silence was behind. He just went in, just balls deep. I don't know what to say. He just went in there. He used his Aegis, of course, but this man went crazy.
He wanted the kills. He committed for the kill, and by God, he finally was able to get that kill. A little bit of help from Silence, that course, for the extra damage buff. But when your Hunter is willing to commit dive 2v1 this late in the game, you got to give some props over to him. Now he does go back to base and picks up that Deathbringer that you were talking about just a moment ago. And now with a full 6-slot Hunter, if Echrome was already chunking on each of those crits, got to hit just a little bit harder, and they're going to need it for this Fire Giant already being taken down to about 10% health, and Sarpé and Silence will zone them away. Angry with no relics gets burned down by the Fear No Evil. Sarpé picks up the double kill, and Azrael will chase Trickstank away. It's already 2 gone for Elysium.
This is such a quick burn on that FG with the transformation and the Deathbringer finished. Already 2 dead. This could be curtains if they can't defend this properly. The tier 2 tower is definitely going to be the first prize.
Silence with that AoE chorus will help buff up Echrome and Sap, and they don't even necessarily need the minions. The enhanced Fire Giant was just a little early, so they're not going to get the enhanced version of it, but with a Frenzy and an AoE course on everybody, that's a go button for Silence to shred the Phoenix, and maybe just a call for Azrael to go to the end, adapting down to half health on its own. The Piercing Moonlight takes him away from the fountain, but Tarum has been pulled right back out. It's a kill for Sarpé. Trickstank gets knocked up, gets slowed down, and gets beaten across the head by Echrome and Sarpé, adapting the lone defense, and that is not going to be enough. It's going to be a deicide for Team Joystick to take game number 1 away from the number 1 seed.
Just absolute domination out of Echrome. He finally got to that late game. Sarpé had a beautiful ult, just the exact team play that you want to see, right? They came together so perfectly. They get the FG, and they got everything they needed there.
And it's a big win coming up here for Team Joystick. Some strong momentum, but we've seen this out of Elysium out of here. We've seen this time and time again where Elysium falls down game number 1, and then they come and make a strong comeback in games number 2 and then 3. think maybe we see a repeat performance out of that.
I mean, Elysium, what they're good at, and I know that we use this pun a lot, adapting, loves to adapt. He's going to lose that game one, but he has the skills, he has the knowledge. They're going to make the adjustments that they need to. So we may not see the same Elysium game two, no doubt.
Now, let's see if Elysium can adapt in game number 2 and maybe extend us to that third game set. We're going to take it to a break and come back to the desk right after.
Joystick more than meets the eye in game number 1, and you can jump into game soon. Not just yet, but the Transformers, that's right, coming to SMITE game. Awesome skins. Might be one of my favorite crossovers that we've had here so far. My personal favorite is the raw one. What's your personal favorite?
I like the Geb because you get to just drive around in a
as the truck?
Yeah, as the truck of Optimus Prime. Dave, I was going to ask you, I feel like you could probably give me a pretty good Optimus Prime impression. Could you give me a little Autobots roll out?
First of all, why do you think that?
You're handsome. And awesome, so is Optimus Prime. And therefore, I think that all handsome men should be able to do it. Yeah, here we go.
So that means you can do it, right?
Absolutely not.
Autobots, roll out!
Okay, not bad. I need a little more bass. We'll work on it.
See, to get into my bassy voice, I have to do, oh my God. I haven't caught up on my hero yet. I haven't gotten
you have to do a little All Might.
All Might.
Yeah.
Izuku Midoriya. Izuku Midoriya. Autobots, roll out.
No, Jithins, we won't move on.
No, we won't move on. We'll stay right here. Just kidding. We'll move on. Team Joystick. Look, this is a game where Elysium don't come out of the gate slow in game 1. They are controlling the early game.
Absolutely.
And Team Joystick weather the early storm, even a steal from Trix Tank. This is the most unfortunate steal is where you make the big play.
That's huge.
And it doesn't matter because
that
Team Joystick win it anyway.
They just won it anyway. Look, Trix Tank stole 2 big objectives this game, and it just wasn't enough because E-Chrome just did too much on this Heimdall. And I was talking about it in the last set where I was saying, you know, E-Chrome and Streak Up and Spudio, these guys have just been so dominant. This region, there's something in the water over in Europe where Heimdall, it just makes you sick nasty at Heimdall. And E-Chrome being the poster boy for it in this game, he was absolutely critical. I mean, every single fight, this one in particular, it's an absolute bloodbath, and it's just a 2v2, but E-Chrome ends up surviving and just doing more. Look at this play, huh?
Yeah.
What an unbelievable, aggressive 2v1 diving in. Silence comes in at the very end. But E-Chrome had that under wraps from minute 1. 5-1-3 for him. He was fantastic. Sarpei was able to get some good ultimates off on that Hun Bats, a huge one on that game-winning push that really separated the team fight and made it easy despite Trix Tank making a big play and stealing away that FG. And this Joystick team, they're for real, man. I've been saying it since we first saw them at the beginning of this phase. This team is legit.
And I don't want them to lose, but I have to imagine the pick and ban duel that would happen between E-Chrome and Vaporish Coast for this Heimdall would be one for the ages. It's the fight before the fight even starts. But Team Joystick, if they have it their way, they won't have to deal with that this weekend at all, or at least until the grand finals. And they have a great chance of doing that with one more win here over Elysium. Now, this is what we saw yesterday, specifically from Adapting. This was not a fantastic game from Adapting.
Nope.
On the Tsukiyomi, wondered if we might see heavy pressure on the right side of the map. Did show some face over there. But it was a slow game, all things considered, from Adapting. It's almost the Scarab's curse of the SEC, where game 1 just isn't going to go your way, and then somehow you bring it back in game 2. Maybe pick some bans for game 2. Will give us some confidence in Elysium, their ability to bounce back here in this set. Because I don't think, you look at the draft, I don't think Elysium got heavily outdrafted by any means. I think that's just a game where you open things up with a bit of a lead on your side. The game slows down for a little bit. Team Joystick able to push their advantage, come back into it. And so maybe aggro Heimdall needs to get looked at a bit earlier on in the pick ban phase. You're in the first pick slot. I don't know if you're feeling comfortable first picking Heimdall in the first pick slot, but you might have to consider it.
I think you might have to consider it. I mean, Angry was obviously fantastic on that Tiamat, still did a lot of stuff really well, and that's what they first picked last time around. But I think Heimdall in E-Chrome's hands just becomes so game-changing that you've got to make an adjustment, whether it be banning it away, picking it for yourself. You've got some options in that regard. And the good news, I think, if you're Elysium, is that E-Chrome, once you take that Heimdall out of his hands, as they have, appropriately so, I don't know what else they really have to be super worried about after that game. Sap didn't look particularly good on the Merlin. I think Sap has kind of struggled in this LAN in general, so I'm expecting a little bit more from him.
Hun Bats?
Hun Bats was good, but are they going to top 3 it? Because if they do, I think you've got pretty good counterpick options. You could probably afford to ban that in the second phase. Azrael was solid on the King Arthur, but not impossible to handle. So I think that you've kind of taken away the big problems. I'm surprised to see this Merlin ban, frankly, because like I said, I think Sap Terram was easily able to take him out in these team fights. maybe they're trying to put him on a god that they don't have to dive as much, that they can focus E-Chrome and maybe not get punished for letting Sap free cast as much.
Yeah, Merlin, head scratcher to say the least, but the answers, look, we got 10 picks still to go here, so the answers will make themselves a little bit more apparent to us down the stretch. We wondered if Heimdall would fall in to that first pick slot, if that's where Elysium chose to put their priority. It is not Heimdall, as Heimdall's already been banned, but Izanami has also fallen into a couple of those first ban priority slots. Heimdall plus Iza has been a popular ban from one side bans one, the other side bans the other, and Izanami continues to be a high priority pick.
I mean, it gives you instant lane pressure. You don't even have to add water. It's just there right away.
Really?
As soon as you pull it out of the package, lane pressure
Right.
immediately. And good kill potential in lane. I mean, you've got a strong slow. The ultimate in Dark Portal is obviously great. And it's good at securing objectives, which clearly both teams needed a little bit of help on that. So getting that pick, guaranteeing a good, strong lane, making sure that E-Chrome can't necessarily bully you, and you still get Tiamat, even though you didn't first pick it, because they first picked it game 1. We don't see it picked up here by Joystick, and so Angry gets to reprise that role. I like the change-ups already for Elysium.
That said, Joystick, while not in the flashy headline writing carry department, the trenches suddenly look great for Team Joystick here in game number 2, because while Izanami and Tiamat, the high priority backliners, go on over to Elysium, you're Joystick and you're able to get Nike and Fafnir, two of the best frontliners in the game at the moment. So I don't think that's anything you can look over. King Arthur to round out the top 3 for Elysium, specifically for Terram, and it looks like we are rolling our way towards a King Arthur and Ardio in the solo lane. Nike then likely ends up out of the jungle. Ardio's been in an interesting spot, where it was only Ardio forever.
Yep.
And this is our first Ardio pick this weekend.
Yeah, in Europe at the very least.
Yep.
Yeah, we saw it a lot in NA, but in Europe, yes. And I'm a little surprised by it being locked in here, because I think that you could have baited Elysium into banning away some junglers potentially, not knowing that Sarpei was going to be piloting this. But it is worth noting that the last time Joystick played Nike, it was in the jungle for Sarpei. So maybe they're giving Elysium the credit. Want to get yourself a good matchup, and Ardio into King Arthur is a very good one for Ardio. I really like the pick. I think that Azriel's shown that he can be a lane-dominant player when given the right tools tier, but Ardio is very similar in that regard. So I like the Ardio pick here, and you'll be able to get some good carries no matter what. They'll get 2 bans. It's not going to matter. It's not going to be the end of the world. The difference between Rom and Chernobog and Ho Yi is minimal, in my opinion. They're all of the same tier. Maybe a little bit worse than Izanami, but still very solid.
Right, and good at doing different things. Rom, fantastic self-peel. You get the range, the ability to chunk down targets at the beginning of these team fights. That is going to leave open the Hunbats. And so the jungle bans roll through for Team Joystick, where on the other end, Elysium ban out a couple of hunters. So Daji, Loki, no play zone for adapting. Hunbats feels just fine here, and you get your support pick down the stretch. The first time over in EU, at least, we'll be seeing the Sobek here this weekend. Sobek plus Iza feels like it's a lane, as you mentioned. Just add anything, it feels like, and you add a Sobek.
Exactly. Sobek, very good. Gives you lane pressure. Iza's going to clear all your creeps by herself. You don't even need to worry about using buttons on the wave. And then you've got instant kill pressure because of charge prey. And it's an Agni pickup here for Sap.
Another first pick.
Another first time. This time in both regions we haven't seen the Agni. And this is a pick that Sap has liked historically. Hasn't gotten his really cool buff where you add the extra damage, Noxious Fumes. That's on live right now, but remember they're playing on the 8.9 bonus balance patch, so not as potent as he will be if you go and load in and play with him right now. But I think that having that range CC on demand, having a dash, Hunbats, if he catches you with that Sacred Monkey Toss, is going to make your life pretty miserable by chasing you through that dash. But otherwise, I feel like that's a character that I can get away from pretty well. Sobek, I can get out of the Lurking in the Waters pretty well. Raigen's open, and certainly Raigen is a stronger pick in a vacuum than Agni. But I think there's something to be said that Elysium's been playing against Raigen all year. How many games have they played against Agni recently? Probably not that many.
None in this tournament, at least, and probably a similar amount throughout the year in the SEC. I want to continue with that train of thought there, Agro, about the ability to dive this Agni, but extend that to the ROM as well.
Sure.
Does this backline from Team Joystick just feel untouchable with the ability to self-disengage, the ability to play from a range and deal damage from a range, or do you think Elysium have some tools that can make the ROM and the life of Agni a little bit difficult.
I'm looking at Terrorem in particular because Arthur is a pick that Agni does not get away from very well. Arthur covers more ground than you, doesn't care about your stun that much. He's going to be able to chase you through it, so I'm not super happy to see a King Arthur on the other side anytime I'm playing Agni.
Team Joystick 1 win away from the grand finals. Elysium, they need to fight back here in game number 2.
Can Elysium do it is going to be the big question with a big Game 1 win up for Team Joystick. They are 1 game away from moving on to the Grand Finals, getting that 1-game advantage in the Grand Finals, and getting that spot in the SWC placement rounds. It's J-Mac and Trelly and Doug here in game number 2 of the set. And Trixtank going back over to the Sobek. We don't see this Sobek pop in too often. And for a little while, we were really only seeing it go back in the solo lane, but here in the EU region, Trixtank and some of these other supports like Emilzy even have really been enjoying this Sobek support pick.
I mean, anything that can get Trix in there, in the thick of it, ready to just get this damage out, be as disruptive as possible, I love to see. Because honestly, Trix is one of those premier supports for me that I don't like him being back peeling, right? I want him in there, creating space, doing damage, stealing away objectives, things like that.
Sap ate a lot of damage from that red buff startup. He's already down under half, even Angry poking him out just a little bit. He's going to have to burn a few of those potions very early to stay healthy in this lane. And now that Adapting is here, it's a blink, but a quick dash out. Sap wisely taking that dash for his second ability to make sure that he's got some kind of escape.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the story of Ogden. He doesn't really become a character that you're afraid of until level 5. His 2's a very short, you have to be very close to the wave to hit it with. Your dash, you're expending your dash ability. Your 2 also doesn't do too much damage unless the passive stacks, so Agni not going to be too notable until he gets that level 5, those bombs online.
And for the moment, since they are on that bonus, they are still technically free bombs, but Silence doesn't have a whole lot of freedom here in this lane. He gets plucked back by Trixtank earlier, but he does make it back under that tier 1 tower, and he'll return some fire right back at Spudio. Knocks him over the dome with the hammer to keep himself safe back in this lane. Didn't even have to use his shell. Able to hold on to that relic.
I'm loving that Team Elysium, just in game 2, they get a buff of some sort that just... Trix is going to be aggressive, Adapting's blinking in before the minute is even up. This is going to be a completely different game, I'm hoping, and it's going to stem from these 2.
It's kind of along that similar mentality of like the Zapman passive in the SPL. You know, when Zapman is, like 0-4 or 1-4, that's when it kicks in. Elysium, that's when they're 0-1 in a series. When they're down a game in a series, that's when Elysium's like, all right, now we get to kick it into high gear here. And they at least get some decent startup pressure here in the dual lane in game number 2. But the gold, slightly in favor of Team Joystick. Only about 100 gold back and forth between them. Nothing really all that impressive. And now we see the junglers actually squaring off for the first time in the middle of the jungle. Adapting gets some good damage, but it's returned right back by Sarpei. Immediately they'll meet, they'll slap a little bit. It's almost like solo lane for these 2. They'll meet, they'll hit each other, and then they'll walk away, just like Azrael and Terrorem are doing here in solo.
Yeah, it's usually not a 1v1 Hoonbats wants to take most of the time anyways. You have those natural warrior procs early anyways, so, but it looks like Adapting is just going to go ahead and try to steal away the blue at this time, but look at over here, this duo lane.
Ekrom with a quick beads to get away from the pluck out of Trixtank. Spudio will fire some shots at him, but Adapting, recognizing that his teammate's blue buff has been taken away, he'll go ahead and steal one of his own, but now he's caught in the middle of 3, low on mana, jumps over the wall. Azrael's here with the stun, and now that Sap has arrived, it's going to be some quick damage right out. The knockup from Sarpei is good, shoves him against the wall, and stuffs him in a locker for first blood.
I mean, I recognize that the blue's going to get invaded, so you go for their blue, but then a beautiful rotation by Sap, and now over here, okay, Silence, yeah, you got your jump, you're fine.
He's fine.
You recognize that Adapting's going to go for that blue, he doesn't have much mana, beautiful rotation by Sap. Now, you're in the dirt, and this Nike having a lead on the Hoonbats with Blink is going to be detrimental.
Sap throwing out the Noxious Fumes first, a little questionable. You can, one thing for everyone at home is you can pretty much use that Noxious Fumes before either of your, or right after each of your primary damaging abilities for your 2 or your ult, and still be able to pop that one. You have just enough of a window after the cast to grab them, but doesn't necessarily need that stun here. The team was able to put up and pull in enough damage. First blood does go for Team Joystick. Sarpei grabbing that, and that's going to be a nice little boost for him. He'll be able to get his mace online as soon as he goes back to base, and likely will have enough gold for that full mace, and it will be a crusher for his first item.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit worried. I mean, obviously adapting's been here before, right? The mental is not shattered. Getting first-blooded and being down a game is not something that's going to shake the king, right? But something that is a little unfortunate is that Sarpé is going to be able to be very impactful on this Nike pick. I got to keep bringing it up because it's very... Oh, hold that thought.
Adapting under the tower, fear no evil against Echrome. Echrome doesn't have his beads, the shell is not enough, and Trixtank strikes the final blow, taking him down and getting the first kill up for Elysium.
So as I was saying, I mean, he's not going to be shaken. His mental's not going to be jarred. He's just going to get aggressive. He's going to go blink over the purple buff, get a kill. That's what I was telling you.
This is what he does. You know what? Game one, whatever. That's all done. Lost a life early on. Yeah, whatever. Who cares? I'm still Hun Bats. I still have Fear No Evil, one of the best team fight ultimates in the game. Makes a nice little play there on that left side to get them right back in it. Blue buff invade yet again by Sarpé and Azrael. They really want to keep it, but Tarum, he says, no, sir, this blue buff is mine and mine for the taking. He'll be able to secure his own buff, and well, now he'll have to try and walk away. Azrael and Sarpé do not want to give up this Tarum fight, but Trixtank is on the tail end, rotating in, and so is Adapting. Let's be careful. Trixtank gets some good poke, drops the lurking in the water to slow down Sarpé and Azrael, but Sarpé is getting a little bit of health back with the help of Azrael. Angry now, even rotating over. This is a 4-man rotation and a beads burn out of Azrael off the pluck from Trixtank.
Just a great mindset there to block that pluck from Sarpé. Keep your jungler alive. Doesn't have beads available. You do. No CS immunity. Great play by Azrael. But that was a very ambitious dive. I don't think they even got Tarum down to half, and it was just like, they put a lot in there. They almost tove the tower.
Nice little jukes there from Sap, able to get away from the primordial onslaught out of Angry. And he'll get to hit level 8 just before Angry, where before he was down level 6 to level 7. So a little bit more efficient farm coming out of Sap after the latter half of that earlier rotation on. And Sarpé up a tier of an item to Adapting, but it's not going to be for much longer. Adapting will get to go back to base and pick up his first full item and maybe even a little bit more onward. Sarpé does get a tier 1 mace off that last back in the Jotun's Wrath. The more standard call, more standard item that we do see picked up first item out of these Hun Bats players.
I will say, with the Sands of Time, the Spear of Deso, and what we can always assume is going to be the Soul Gem, that's going to be a lot of cooldown for this Agni. It's going to be a lot of damage, but it's not that typical build we see with the Chronos Pendant or the Charon's Coin, right? It's going to be a lot more early damage, though.
He's going to have a nice little spike there. Greater Scorpion on the left side, started up by Joystick. Trixtank, the Master of Steals. Well, he doesn't get it this time. I got to reprise it. He stole a red buff last game. He stole a Gold Fury last game, and in the very last team fight around that Fire Giant, he did man steal that one away, but Sap's going to need a lot more help than some steals to get away. He's going to need to steal some time away from them, but it will not be so. Adapting gets the final strike. Silence with a stun on Angry under the tower. Sarpé is here. He'll leap right over and get the Rend damage to immune the knockup, and Silence is there to stun him out and take him down, but Trixtank and Azrael have rotated in. Azrael going to get some nice damage, but it's just too much against the jungler, and maybe too much for Silence. Snipes out of the Hunter. Echrome gets some good shots back, but Azrael has no escape path. His cutoff is gone, his dash is down, and his life is over.
All right, listen, I know Tiamat the tanky character. I know that when she goes into ground stance, she gets 60% mitigation. I know all these things. But this man Angry jumped into the tower, took 4 shots, almost made it out, honestly. It was close. And then, luckily, big man Tarum comes through, cleans up. I'm sure they're happy with those trades. And Azrael did make the rotation as well, just does not have that impact at the level, I mean, it was probably level 8 King Arthur at the time can make, as that is a lot of bluestone damage he was doing as well. Huge plays for Elysium, and now that gold leads back in their favor.
I mean, between these two stance switch gods, there's one thing that King Arthur does that RDO can't, and that's literally taking somebody out of a fight for multiple seconds, especially if they don't have those beads. It's the one little one-up that Tarum will have. But Azrael, after their last death, they have that Stone of Binding online, had that right before that fight, now a tier 2 breastplate. Going towards that Breastplate of Valor, get some of that physical defense, get some of that cooldown reduction online, which is something that RDO players really love to have, is that extra little bit of CDR.
One thing I want to notice is that Angry put his minions over in duo already. He's just stealing Spudio's farm. That's kind of messed up.
I mean, he's ahead already. Might as well just get a little bit extra. Maybe, I don't know, try and help get some pressure, though, to be fair. Echrome and Spudio did rotate out of that last fight. They were over in mid, now stealing some of his farm. He's just got to get a little bit of it back.
Oh no, Angry knew exactly what he was doing. He's stealing that farm. I've been this Tiamat before, and
you're one of those Tiamats.
No, I don't do it unless they're mean to me.
Unless they're mean to you. Okay, so you got the caveat of they got to be rude to you before you drop some lizards in their lane. Sap and Silence might have some damage dropped on their heads, but Trickstank and Adapting do not make a commit under that tower. Sarpei with the Rend well out of range to be able to get any damage off against Adapting. This will be minion clear. Tarum, this solo side tier 1 tower, looking a little rough over here on that right side.
Yeah, Sap is behind right now, and we still saw the damage that 2 of those Agni Bombs were able to do to Angry. There's still another one, and a Flame Wave, and a Flame Dash. Agni, not a character low on damage, maybe low on CC immunity, maybe that's the reason, but he is getting a buff soon. That's going to be very exciting. But this pick is not, by all means, it's just because it's not a Tiamat, it doesn't mean it can't pump out these damage numbers.
Look, I'll say it, I'll die on this hill. Agni, it is one of the more entertaining characters to play because he's so simple. It's a dash that goes forward, an AoE shot that moves forward, and then a big circle that you throw, and then a smaller, same size circle that has, small damage and then a stun. But that simplicity in his kit gives him so much diversity in team fights that you never know exactly when those stuns are going to come through. When old Staff of Mirrodin was around, you got the instant second cast of that. You throw a bomb stun, and then guess what after? You get another bomb stun. Now we don't get that same benefit anymore now that Staff of Mirrodin has been changed around, but always a fun character to play, always a fun character to watch to see how people really utilize the fullest extent of his kit.
Well, speaking of fun to watch, I can tell you what's not fun to watch. This domination in the solo lane. Terrarum just is holding this man Azrael underneath the tower, which is quite unfortunate because he's been having such a great performance. But the King Arthur from ahead is he's going to keep you exactly where you want to be. And Trix is already looking for some plucks.
Pluck against Sab, but Sab wisely holds on to the dash until after the pluck potentially comes through, so he's able to make it back to the safety of his tower. I'm not actually sure. I don't know if the pluck has the full range to catch him if he chased the dash afterwards. So for now, Sap will get to live to see another day under his tower, but only level 11 versus Angry just hit level 12. Angry can go back to base, pick up his second relic, and they can both seemingly pick up this soul gem out of the mid lane, give him a little bit of extra CDR, give him some cooldown reduction, which they both love. Now we see 30% on both sides of the board for the mid laners.
This is going to be a big deal here. These goldies go down. That's going to give them vision. There's a Fafnir on the map, so as long as there's this vision here, you got to be careful, because once those oracles are down, there's any chance that dragon could just transform, buff everyone, and then you lose gold free before you even knew it was happening.
Tarum does end up going for that sovereignty that you were hinting at last game. Azrael didn't want to go for that with the King Arthur, but maybe we see that because Trickstank hasn't picked up that item just yet. Instead, it's Gauntlet of Thieves and working towards maybe a Heart Ward Amulet, trying to give them a little bit of extra magical protection, as it seems that that's the primary target he has been diving as Sap, and that's why Sap's not been able to do a whole lot of damage to Trickstank as of yet.
Well, now that Sarpei has that Jotun's Wrath, there can be a lot more aggression here. With Nike has pretty long cooldowns here, but now we finally got some cooldown online. Maybe we can match his aggression of Adapting, who had the Jotun's Wrath from the start of the game.
I feel like I'm watching the final set from yesterday where it's just non-stop bullying against Meerkat on Ardio. But this time around, it's a King Arthur and a Hunbat's doing it to him. Azrael dashes in aggressively, gets a double stun. He's not going to be able to save his blue buff. Sarpei is here, but they are both under leveled, 2 levels down for both of them. Silent stun now by Angry. The spin from the ultimate. The bombs rain down, but don't find anybody, and Sarpei is losing this 2v1 battle, even with Azrael's help here. I'm not sure that Sarpei is going to be able to make it out. Tarum just a little too much damage on this King Arthur.
Level 10 Nike just not bringing enough. Obviously, Adapting at level 12 is going to be pumping out a lot more damage. 2 relics as well.
Big bomb.
But Sap is going to dash in
aggressively. It needs one more basic after. He'll turn it around and get a kill in the mid lane. Transformation out of silence keeps him alive. Sap needs just a couple more seconds to get the dash through. He makes it out and under the tower, and somehow this man, who dashes into 2 people in lane, makes it out.
I mean, Silent Stun was sick, and he even had the peace of mind to juke back when the monkey was coming so it doesn't get sent to his mid laner. That's just a heads-up play by the support. Beautiful. Again, the stun was perfect to peel him out of there, and then walks backwards as the monkey comes in so it doesn't bounce. That was just perfect to watch. And Sap, 30% CDR, but still dashing in. Love to see this aggression out of this Agni pick-a-pick. We don't see too often, as we've mentioned, but Sap does like it in the past.
Yeah, Sap. I think Wolfie may be another player who's really loved to kind of go towards this Agni when you just don't feel like playing the Raijin or the team. You're going up against something like a Tiamat, you just want something. I'm not going to necessarily say that Agni's safe, but you want something that can get some decent long-range damage via way of those bombs, and Sap has been able to play this pick fairly well so far here in game number 2. Team Joystick, they're down about 2,500 gold to Elysium, but they're not necessarily fighting like it. At least here in the mid lane, Sap is playing like he's 2,500 gold up just himself.
I mean, let's be real. Most of that gold disparity is going to be in the solo and duo, or the solo and the jungle rather. And even the duo has a 2-level lead, just crossed over to 1 level at this point. But that doesn't mean your mid support can't brawl in mid. I respect that.
Silenced will miss the hammer, so Angry gets to walk away. Trixtank's here with a full wave of minions and a quick leap by Silence. There will be no pluck to follow up for Trixtank instead. Maybe he'll speed this Krieger Scorpion back to this right side. I mean, Tarim with a about 2.5 level lead up over Azriel. It's going to force this RDO to continue to sit under this tier 2 tower. Azriel doesn't get to have the same fun that he did in game number 1.
But he did get his blue buff, and that is a big win because
that's the win.
It's unfortunate to see a King Arthur that is 3 levels ahead of you bully you, take your blue buff, but this time Azriel got his. You're gonna lose the Pyromancer, but I think that's at least a small win because you get to tick over to level 12. Now you have a blink. You have more options as a solo laner.
See, that's a luxury Meerkat didn't get to have in his first game on the RDO, was they just kept taking the blue, and then they took it again and again and again for what felt like probably 10 rotations of that buff. It wasn't until late game he finally got his hands on another one, but Azriel does get it here, just ticking over to level 12 after that last little blue buff skirmish. So he does have that second relic, as you highlighted, the blink coming up for him. And then Sarpei, 3 levels down himself. This right side of the map is struggling to keep up in the experience department.
Still, Team Joystick is dominating the vision on this left side of the map. As you can see, gold lit up like a Christmas tree. The Fafnir is still an option, but it seems like they just don't feel confident pulling this. Maybe once E-Chrome finishes that Wind Demon Shuriken, that's going to be a lot more DPS. Even with the Fafnir buff, they don't trust that that's going to be too much. Angry and Sap firing some warning shots at each other. This mid lane's been very aggressive.
I love seeing it, man. You don't get to see the mid laners just brawl very often. It's usually always, in these 2v2, 3v3s, but after like the first 10 minutes, they're usually like, okay, we're only going to do that when we're ready for an objective, but these guys, they're just ready to fight any time, and no surprise, Sap with a literal free cast ultimate, he can just throw those bombs out whenever he wants.
Hey, those bombs are still 0 mana right now. They're going to be 10 mana next patch, and that'll be a huge difference. However, I do want to draw attention that Trix is going to pick up the Sundering Spear. Now, we've seen Sundering Spear in the past, but it did take a bit of a nerf, right? And then now Ankh was, for a bit, was kind of that choice to counter this Nike shield because it also gives you the healing reduction, but Trix, my man, he's going to be aggressive. He's going to upgrade its Sunder. He's going to be looking for these plucks. He might blink pluck into the Sunder. We're going to look to see, focus around Trixtank starting these engagements because he's going to get the beads and then adapting is going to come in afterwards. And the Sunder is going to be crucial.
The true power play is when you blink, you beta beads immediately, then you Sunder pluck them right after. That's the true power play. But they may not even need it here. Trixtank and team will start up Gold Fury, and there's no answer aside from E-Chrome, who can maybe snipe this one out, but look at this. Look at the discipline, holding on and then leashing it afterwards. Gold Fury not down yet. Silence is here, but it is just a lone Fafnir. If silenced, we're going to be able to see that Gold Fury. That's where we might have some real problems.
Adapting was hunting E-Chrome out of that ult. He was like, you know what? If you're going to try to shoot your astral shots at my Gold Fury, I'm going to follow you over there. But E-Chrome looks like he's got some sort of idea that they're here, so he's going to back up. But look at Trix. He's still like, we can do this. Let's go. I know if we could listen to those comms right now, Trix like, let's dive him. Let's do it.
Him and Adapting, they're both going back and forth. They're contemplating the pros and cons of actually diving a tier 2 tower for E-Chrome. They're like, look, we can dive him, and we can kill him, or we can at least get his relics. I'm seeing a win-win. There's no way he 1v2s and kills both of us. To my mind, in their comms, they're like, there's no con to this. Maybe just the con of them missing a pluck or something like that, and then they don't get relics. That's the only negative. You miss and you don't get anything out of it.
And, maybe if it was game 1, I bet you they're both blinking there. But because it is game 2, they do have a lot on the line here. They are down a set. They're like, you know what, we're going to play it safe. We do have this gold lead. We just got Gold Fury. But look at this aggression around the red buff in the mid lane.
Angry eating some damage from the bombs yet again. Charon's Coin now online for Sap, 3rd in the build compared to the first item that we have been typically seeing out of Sap himself. Really, he's one of the only players still really picking up this item consistently in his mid lane. We saw it on the Merlin last game, first item, now 3rd item for this Ogni. He's got 30% CDR across the board with the rest, so we don't need to see that Cronus pinning come out from him. And Trixtank will very aggressively walk in the lane and just say, you know what? I don't care that there's 2 of you here. I'm just going to walk at you.
The way I see it with this mid build, right, is if you're going to start the Charon's Coin, you're trying to get those stacks early, or you're just kind of trying to stay back and farm. But if you're going to get this Spear of Desolation, I want to see some aggression, right? And we've been seeing Sap consistently dashing in, getting this damage, getting this big poke off. So I'd say the Spear of Deso pick worked out for him. I mean, he got the pressure, he got the kills he wanted. One kill, but it was a lot of damage.
Another blue buff stolen away, and Azrael has to watch as it fades into the darkness. That is, well, Taram's waste as he puts the buff around his belt. Again, Azrael will just have to sit here and continue farming at what used to be that tier 1 tower, sitting right there at the back end of the line. Taram might not even let him back. He'll basically make him wait here until that wave shows up. Taram, he'll just eat a little bit of damage, but he's not concerned one bit. Does have his magic defense online via way the Genji's guard, and some physical defense now online with that Sovereignty and a Glad Shield.
This is never a position you want to find yourself in as this Nike jungle where you're forced into this Spirit Robe, right? Because that means you're not really getting a huge power spike after you get your 2 power items. You would love to see, you know, some sort of like a Heartseeker being started to build here, or so like adapting as a Heartseeker being built right now, or even a Transcendence if he chooses to go that route. Probably the Heartseeker. Either way, now Nike's going to have to build another item before she gets that power spike. Sarpei is going to be hitting, but just not quite doing that damage that Adapting's doing because of the loss of pressure.
It's going to be a little bit of time, especially going into Erendite. That's such an expensive item for Sarpei to go into in this 4th slot after, so it will be some time before we do see some big defense come out. Does get exactly 10% cooldown reduction by picking up this gem, so he's got at least 1 stat, but it's a very expensive 1 stat. It's what, like 900 gold to pick up the tier 1 of this item. Sure, 10% cooldown reduction, nice. Spending a lot of gold on it might not be the most beneficial. And Angry has a full army of lizards joining him now. 4 of those creeping up the mid lane towards tower. Some damage from Sarpei against Adapting, but Pyromancer all this while just by Spudio, and maybe even a Fire Giant. Pyro going down. Surely it's got to be a call for Team Joystick to recognize there's somebody on this right side of the map. Silence is here, but Taram is zoning just him alone. There's nobody else to answer. It's got to be Azrael. Steal away, but with a Fear No Evil out of Adapting, there's no shot that Team Joystick steal this objective away. That one goes to Elysium.
Yes, Spudio made the perfect rotation. They did the Pyro. Sarpei's on back camps in the top left of your side, so there's no way that anyone's going to be able to get in there. It's not like Azrael's going to blink in the level 17 cardio. You do have a ray of hope here. E-Chrome is going to get this tier 2, but hold that thought because Adapting is going over to stop him, so that's probably not going to work out in your favor. If you look at Silence Relics, they have the Girdle. They have the Fafnir. He's building into Shoguns. They were trying to shred these objectives. They really haven't had any chance to do so, and now Elysium might be looking at a Phoenix.
This tier 2 does get mitigated by a couple of tier 1s, but it's still a 6,000 gold, 7,000 experience lead up for Elysium here at just 21 minutes in. Sarpei on the back end of the rotation. Azrael getting poked out. Spudio leaps away and goes right into the ultimate of Sarpei. The snipes immuned out by the Aegis. The 3rd one just off the mark, and a crit turnaround and a lifesteal keeps Spudio alive. Bomb does slam down, and it's Taram up against 3, but now that Angry has joined the fight, Sap and crew may just have to turn tail and run. Even with Taram falling low, Angry is not shy of throwing some damage right back in with the King showing up. Slamming down with the overhead smash, gets some damage and a quick retreat, and you got the full squad of Elysium now making their way in.
Unfortunate for Sarpei, you may be a Nike, you may be a Warrior, you don't have that Spectral Armor, and that was a huge 500 crit.
Plugged in, the Ruination just off the mark, a quick leap gets them out, but it's 5 versus a crippled 4 from Team Joystick. Trixtank will lurk in the waters to get some extra defense for himself. Silence and Sap. Now with Sap on the run, use the dash and a bomb. This Phoenix is going to go to Elysium for little to no trouble.
There's really nothing they could do there. Just such a lead from everyone. Spudio is putting out way too much damage as well. Angry is unkillable. Adapting had his ult that whole time and held on to it. I mean, he didn't have it when he first blinked in, just kind of threw some stuff around. But now he had the ult up. There was just no way that Phoenix was staying up.
Just full power out of the Hunbats. The tactical nuke build coming up big for him. Up against Sarpei, had that defense, still doesn't have that Erendite online just yet. 6-3 reads the kills, but it's been all action all game by both of these teams. Team Joystick feeling a little risky of their own. They're going to go for an Oni Fury, but with Spudio and the Master Steals on the way. No, never mind. Trixtank leaves, and they just decide to go ahead and give this one up. Maybe they thought, okay, we can get as a consolation prize later, but there will be no consolation prize at the back end of that fight. It will be an Oni Fury secured by Team Joystick.
They must have thought eChrome was there and that was going to be done too quickly, because I have no doubt that just tricks and adapting could have stopped that, but eChrome was nowhere to be found. He's over here pushing solo lane right now, getting a tier 1 tower, so that was a very slow Oni Fury, but hey, Elysium's got the lead. They have the fire around their belt. Towers are going to be dropped. What's a few red minions, right?
They're not going to be too worried about it. eChrome will push up towards tier 2, but just clear out the last fire wave that was pushed up at the moment on that right-hand side. Now he'll go back to base to rejoin the rest of his team. Now they've got a Phoenix to defend on the left side of the map.
They do have the 4-1 push going, adapting in the mid lane still. Sarpei is lurking, is not in that mid lane yet to defend, so this could be a 5v4 if they do elect to push, but it looks like they're going to play it safe. Sarpei is going to step up and defend this, but I don't know. Trix is coming from behind. This could be a mistake.
Sarpei, he'll walk up, and now he'll have to walk away. No shot. He's defending that tier 2 tower by himself, and on the other side of the map, this left side, Angry, he'll lead a bomb from Sap. And a quick stun back against Tarum and throwing some more bombs out there. And you're starting to see the power that this Agni can't have. But Sarpei blinks under the Phoenix and ults against 2. Azrael gets a 2-man stun and the beads away from adapting. 3 snipes, only 2 gonna hit. Angry now in danger as Silence stuns him out, and Azrael walks forward. The front line of Team Joystick holding Elysium off at the mid-Phoenix.
I mean, I would argue that was a great play for Joystick as long as they can hold this, but it looks like that left Phoenix is going to be a siege again. And when you did get some stuff off adapting, Spudio is going to be swinging hard. Fire Giant is gone. I don't think they're going to push this.
Oh no, adapting steals away the speed, but a misclick of the ultimate now puts that one on cooldown, and he's going to have to walk away. An unfortunate little mistime there from adapting. Thought that maybe Sarpei was going to continue that fight, but Sarpei wisely stands just a little too far away.
Yeah, I think adapting was definitely expecting an up down there, which did not come his way. Not too much of an issue. It should be back up. He's got full cooldown just about. Yeah, he's got plenty of cooldown at this point. So once this FG comes up, hopefully that should be coming up right about then. But now we have this option, right? You have Fafnir, you have Shoguns, you have Girdle. You have a lot of potential damage on this objective. If Elysium is not ready, it could definitely get burned.
Not only that, you got some crit coming out of eChrome by way of the Wind Demon. The Dominance is finished, and oddly enough, a Transcendence. We've typically been seeing the Crusher, but obviously Rom doesn't really get a benefit from that item aside from just the ultimate. So instead, we do see Transcendence just for some raw power out of this Hunter. And right to the Fire Giant goes Elysium before it's even spawned in. They've already got 4 at the pit, ready to go, and Trix Tank zoning away any hopes that Team Joystick could get in here and try and steal that one away. That'll be a free objective for Elysium.
Yeah, it seems to me like the call was definitely to give that one up. Sarpei, once again, just farming over in left lane, trying to get that Bumbas online, whether the hammer or the spear, either just some sort of upgrade, because as we've noted, the Spirit Robe did not give a huge power spike. Now the Erendite's finished. You get some sick movement speed after the ult and stuff, but it's just not enough. I don't even think this Phoenix will be defended. I think they're probably just going to throw some stuff at it and then really try to fight for mid or left.
Trying to go for a hard defense against a weakened Phoenix may not be the full call for Joystick, but they will at least put up some form of defensive threat up against him, especially if Angry's going to get poked out by these bombs. But with little to no effort, little to no struggle, Elysium are able to steal away the left side Phoenix, and adapting all by himself. Grabs the mid one, able to get away from Sarpei just in time, but Sarpei's ultimate is gone. The Fear No Evil shoves him away and almost takes him down. Snipes all 3. Needed does find it, and able to get the first blood of the fight, but it's going to pay at the cost of his jungler. Sarpei goes down to the likes of Tarum.
Those eChrome snipes were so crucial, but the onslaught continues.
Oh
Angry
no,
has so
Azrael
much damage.
Too far forward, and now it's a 4 versus 3 at the throne room, but Elysium are not willing to commit to the fight just yet. They're going to head to the left side and take the last remaining Phoenix off the map. 27 minutes in, Elysium have surmounted a 13k gold lead and may just even be poised to take game number 2.
I mean, Sap has a lot of damage online, and I think Elysium knows better than to try to force it, but it looks like they might just go for it. Trix is leading the charge. 4v3, they're going to go for this Titan Siege.
There's risky. There's a lot of damage out of eChrome and Sap. The Cyclone comes out against Silence. The pluck up against the Fafnir, but it's a quick leap away. And look at the bomb turnaround coming out of Sap, firing that right on Spudio, and that is a nice little damage check for Elysium. They realize what Joystick's able to output, and they'll wisely turn tail and head back to the base.
Yeah, without your jungler there, I don't think that was the greatest call. They didn't really throw anything out. Maybe they were just testing the waters. They certainly didn't commit to the end, which would have been a big issue if that didn't go well. But maybe they play for EFG now. They got everything they need. I think we said it last time. Less than 10 games have ever came back. The pro games has ever come back from 3 Phoenixes down.
We have seen one in recent times, just recently here in the SPL, and last week you did get to see it, but it's a very, very tall task. I mean, not just 3 Phoenixes down, it's the 15,000 gold, and with everyone on Elysium now going back to the base, you're seeing near full 6 slots come out. Obsidian Shard, done for Angry. Titan's Bane out of adapting. Deathbringer for Spudio. You thought those crits hit hard, now they're going to hit just even more so, and a fully upgraded Sundering Spear out of Trickstank coupled in with him finishing up that stardom. Huge power spikes across the board for Elysium.
I mean, we're going to have to do something
Interesting.
about... First of all, that was interesting. Adapting's been questionable lately, but hey, they're winning, so what can you say?
Yeah,
You got to put some stock into Spudio right now. He's pumping out a lot of the damage with these big crits. He may not have that much player damage in total, but he's
adapting in the 1v1.
What?
Necrom's gonna win. What its way to start the team fight for Team Joystick. Now it's the Hunter on full retreat. He's gonna get stunned out by Tarum, and he might just go down here before he can even get into the sky. Tarum puts him down. Now it's the 4v4 scuffle, but they're down there. Hunter, while Starpay is trying to live through, but he cannot. Trickstank grabs him. Azrael on the run, and the frontliners have separated themselves. And it's only Sap left alive. If Azrael can manage to make it out, it'll be a miracle play for him. But he may not be doing so. The blink does get out, but now Sap may have put himself out of position.
It's going to be the 2v4 base defense. Sap does have full HP. Azrael's going to have to back at this point. He might get caught out. He might get caught out. There is a blink. Sobek!
He's got the beads. Sap gets out for now, but Spudio puts him in the dirt with just a couple of crits, and that's going to be game number 2. Going the way of Elysium. Azrael does not have the damage nor the defense to stop this Titan onslaught. Elysium, similar fashion to some of their previous sets. You go down in game number 1, but they always seem to somehow come back in game 2.
I mean, it's the Elysium passive, man. I see at this point we have to coin the term, right? You're going to go down game 1. You're going to not sweat it. You're going to be totally fine, and you're going to have a good performance in game 2. And if the track record continues, it's going to be something interesting in game 3, that's for sure.
There's a lot on the line in this third game. The winner goes to the grand final and gets a spot at the SWC placement rounds. The losers, they're not out of this game or out of this tournament just yet, but they've got to make a long run in that losers bracket to do so. We're going to take it to a break, and then we'll come back right after.
Well, the thing about curses is there's usually a blessing on the other side, and the Elysium curse is also the Elysium blessing, and that's game 2 wins. And we've got another one here, and we are on to a game number 3 in EU once more. We're now 4 for 4 on EU sets this weekend, and 4 for 4 on them going all 3 games. Team Joystick unable to stand up to the task of Elysium here in this one. I think aggro adapting has a big turnaround in this game. But really, it feels like the outsides of the map for Elysium. Terrorum on King Arthur on one side. Spudio on the other. They clash into the middle and take the game.
Do you think we could have just had production copy-paste our desk from Game 2 of Elysium set yesterday?
I think you might be able to.
And just paste it onto this one? And I'll sit here and instead of saying, like, what did adapting play in Game 2 of that set? I think it was Dodgy.
Dodgy. Yeah.
I think every time instead of one of us saying Dodgy, I'll go, Hunbats.
Hunbats.
and you just, like, mute it right then because it's exactly the same
as
what we saw yesterday. I mean, it's just a much cleaner performance. Angry back on this Tiamat is able to control the pace of the game. Trix Tank on this Sobek was phenomenal. You get Spudio on the Izanami. I mean, everything was working in this game. Azrael fell behind early. Terrorum and adapting played around that right side of the map as I expected them to do more in Game 1. Saw it a little bit more here in Game 2.
That was huge from adapting to get Terrorum ahead and then never really slowed down, it felt like. That's what you want to see with a pick like King Arthur. You want to get ahead. You want to be able to keep that ball rolling, and Terrorum, not the style of player to fall behind in Game 1 and then continue that trend on later on into the draft. And there were some concerns about whether or not Elysium was going to be able to find the backline, right? We were wondering how safe would the ROM be? How safe would the Agni be? You highlighted King Arthur as one of the options, and it was for Terrorum. Now, on the flip side of the map, you need a good backline to carry you through the game, and Spudio had a fantastic game here in Game 2.
Prioritizing the Izanami, getting E-Chrome off of that Heimdall, all very, very smart decisions, I think, from Elysium. And this RDO pick for Azrael didn't really work out because of all the pressure that Elysium had. Trix Tank on another signature pick, and Sobek, when you played as long as he did, you've got a lot of signatures, and I think the Sobek is certainly one of them. 2-0 and 6 for him. I mean, Terrorum and Trix Tank didn't die. The only deaths this game were adapting and angry, and when you don't kill the enemy front line, you will not win the game. You have to be able to kill who's in front of you, and that just wasn't the case. This Transcendence build from E-Chrome, not a huge fan. I just don't think that ROM leverages that power well enough, doesn't care about the CDR enough. Yes, his ultimate will hit hard, but I'd much rather be able to actually auto-attack down the people in front of me and then finish off some low-health targets with the snipes.
What's the aggro grade on Agni after Game 2 here? Or hard to make a decision. Didn't win or lose because of the Agni.
Yeah, I think that if that's a Raijin, the game outcome is likely the same. You know, I don't think that the Agni really swayed that game one way or the other. Sap played okay, but during the regular season, I thought Sap looked like a potential superstar on this team. And so that's what I keep talking about, where it's, Sap's not playing horribly, but Sap was playing so aggressively, sometimes too much so. They were oftentimes putting Calvin at the time, now iSilence their support on things like Kepri in order to try and keep him alive, but let him loose in these team fights. And I think that identity, despite Joystick playing well, I mean, they obviously took a game off Elysium. They're over on the winner side of the bracket. I still don't think we've seen the best from Joystick quite yet. So hopefully in Game 3 they can show it to us.
Yeah, hopefully in Game 3, because you need to see it in Game 3 to avoid going down to the loser's side of the bracket. Elysium in a fantastic spot here to take Game 3, move themselves onto the Grand Finals, and as such, a berth in the SMITE World Championship qualification rounds. Game 3, the picks and bans are going to be ever so important at setting the stage here. If you can continue the similar trends that Elysium were able to set in Game 2, Game 3 might be a rollover for Elysium. Let's answer some of those questions, P's and B's, for game number 3. And I bring that up in that way because that's just kind of the Elysium way. You start off in kind of a contentious Game 2, and then the gloves are truly off after that in Game 3. Traditionally, if we get there with Elysium, has been heftily in Elysium's favor. Team Joystick, they're going to make a big pivot. They're going to take the team out away first.
Look, I mean, Angry goes, 0-2 in that game, but still had some of the highest player damage, was still a huge factor. So I think it's a good decision to take away that Tiamat if you aren't willing to first pick it, which clearly they aren't because Joystick weren't willing to top 2 it because they had the option in the second pick last game and totally ignored it. So if you're not going to be going for it, it makes sense to me to take that away, make sure that you're going to be able to try and open something up. But I do not see a world where you get Heimdall or Tyr. Those are the picks that I'd be willing to first pick right now. I like the Izanami ban here from Elysium because I think that would have been a really strong first pick here for Joystick. And if, can you really afford to first pick Tyr is really the question because who knows if Terrorem will really play it on the other side.
Yeah, no clue. I do. My brain kind of goes back to there was the kind of random Merlin ban, remember, from Elysium in Game 2. And there were still some picks left open. Raijin has been the name that we've thrown out there. Ended up being an Agni pick, so Elysium might be onto something here, realizing that Sap maybe just really likes Merlin. Won't be a Merlin ban this time around, at least not through the first 3. Still some priority, though, open out of that solo lane and potentially out of the jungle. Nike is a pretty popular ban away. But Elysium are onto something. Merlin prioritized heavily by Team Joystick here, and first pick overall for Sap.
Things have changed, though, with this Merlin pick in comparison to Game 1, because Tiamat's now banned, Angry needs a mid laner, Angry's a really good Merlin player. So this effectively is a pick and a ban for your side. So I like it in that respect. Is Merlin better than every other god in the game, save these 6?
Yes.
No.
No.
The answer was no to that question. It's a trick question. We do that sometimes.
But he's so fun.
He's so fun. I don't know if there's a more fun mage when you get to 6 items than Merlin.
Yeah.
But you got to get to 6 before he really feels like he's operating at maximum capacity. And these games have been a little bit slower. They aren't the usual Elysium kind of breakneck pace, but still a little bit worried for Sap. You got to take Tyr here, I think, if you're Joystick. I'd go Umoja's a great pick. If that's an iSilence God pool, we haven't seen a whole lot of Umoja priority at all. 0% ban rate over here in Europe. If your support can play it, play it.
Yep.
It is really that simple. And they don't take Tyr, which is very interesting to me because Elysium has top banned it the last 2 games. They let it through this time around. And Azriel looked so lane dominant on that pick. It's not that Tyr is so good that you can't beat it. It's just that god is nearly impossible to lose lane with. You will always have lane prio with Tyr. You can't get bullied out because he just has such good clear, such good sustain. Elysium, I'm sure, is going to ban it here in the second phase. And maybe the King Arthur is just a matchup that you don't want that Tyr in, but I'm a little surprised.
Does seem like an obvious ban at this point for Elysium moving into the second wave of bans here. The first 3 picks for Elysium rounded out by Adaji. This is a pick that we saw Adapting kind of have a comeback performance on in the first game of the weekend for this Elysium team. And so now the second wave of bans will roll through. Raven taken away on one side, followed up by the Aphrodite there on the other. Chiron admittedly raises some eyebrows here, Aggro. We've seen Chiron a couple of times throughout the weekend. Maybe in a position with the Mace Tree and the ability-based builds where there's some value to that pick. Is it first pick value, though, is my question.
I think it is if you're really worried about specific things on the other side, like Tyr. I think that overall, they don't ban Tyr, and it's because they picked 3 gods that are pretty good against it. You've got a Cleanse from Chiron, you've got Knockback Immunity from King Arthur, which will stop Fearless, and you've got Knockback Immunity from Daji, which will, again, stop Fearless. So, overall, they seem to have really tried to draft around it. Chiron, I mean, if these other 2 hunters are off the board. I think Chiron is probably in that next best tier of pick overall for the hunters, yeah.
Ends up being Nike instead of the tier for Team Joystick here, probably catering to a lot of what Aggro says there, potentially some counterplay around that pick. Gilg, the 2 words I morphed together there, Gilgamesh ends up being the final
Almost
pick
like
here.
a transformer, you could say.
You could say that. I don't know if you'd want to.
I want to.
Zuku Midori. Autobots, roll out. Nike Gilgamesh rounds out the draft for Team Joystick. Merlin, Yamoja, Hachiman, Nike Gil. Truthfully, Aggro just feels like a well-rounded composition here for Team Joystick, and they've given themselves a chance.
Yeah, I just don't love this Nike again for Sarpei. I mean, think about Game 1 and how impactful he was on Hunbats. Think about how good all these assassins are right now. Nike's being built like an assassin, but not seeing the same level of success as a lot of the other assassins. I'm just not, Nike, I want her on my team. I want her in solo. Yeah, I've kind of decided that's where I am on this pick. The Gilgamesh was really good for Azrael when he played it yesterday. So overall, you still get a good warrior for him. I think that you like the matchup well enough. Don't necessarily love Gilgamesh up against something like Soul that's slow immune in the 3 channel, but it's fine, I suppose. Would have loved to see Sarpei go a slightly different direction, though, in this jungle pick. I mean, Tsukiyomi's open. He played that really well yesterday.
It's a double hunter composition for Elysium, all rounded out with a Bacchus final pick. Elysium versus Team Joystick. Finals on the line in Game 3.
A big one up here for Game 3 with Joystick and Elysium. It's J-Mac, Trelly, and Doug one final time in this matchup to bring you guys at Game number 3. And Azrael does go back on the Gilgamesh, so Sarpei will once again get to pilot this Nike, but up against a composition that's kind of been evolving as of this land, especially with a god like Soul, who we saw a lot of in the NA yesterday via Baskin. But now it's going to be making its way over here towards Angry's hands.
You got to put some respect on Sarpei for running the pick back, right? We didn't see Nike have that much, it wasn't a highlight pick by any means, but Sarpei or Team Joystick in total, they all think that this was a pick that they can do better on, maybe they can get more out of, and maybe it's just a solid pick into this Daji as well, so they're deciding to run it back. I think that takes a lot, and we'll have to see if it pans out.
But out of all of this, Team Joystick did manage to sneak by and get a Yamoja in the earlier half of the draft, a god that's been so heavily banned, especially on the North American side of the bracket. It seems that the European teams aren't really, I'm not going to say they're not really as scared of this god, but they don't seem to prioritize it nearly as much. But getting silenced on a top-level support pick early on, and then now getting a meditation out of Trix Tank to try and respond to some of that early healing out of this Bacchus. We'll see how this duel lane goes, while Azrael gets bullied and loses speed very early in the fight. Some big damage out of Taram will bully him back towards the tower.
I was going to say, if Taram had the dash and the 1, maybe there was enough damage there, but it's all right. Gilg takes a little bit to get online, honestly. You need 3 abilities before you can really be safe in that lane. Solo Gilg is one of those characters that is going to just take a bit, and it's also a little awkward because you have to go on your quest, a mighty quest to find your item at level 5, and it could be anywhere. It could really be pretty close to that speed buff. But yes, that eye silence on this Yamoja is going to be a force to be reckoned with, and it's going to, if nothing else, it's going to make Trix play a little bit smarter with that belly flop.
What is the worst place you've had to go for one of your quests on Gilgamesh?
Yeah, I mean, I've had it right about that speed buff, and it's a very awful time because you have to try to go, and you're like, I'm not invading this. I just want to grab it,
Like, I don't want to be here, guys. I just have to. I think the worst one I've had was right between the Tier 1 and Tier 2 on Duo side, like right at the entrance to the jungle. It was not a fun trek all the way over there. I ended up having to wait so long. And maybe we'll have to wait a little while before we see a first blood. Both these teams, while still playing fairly aggressive, still have a bit of a passive notion to it, as both Echrome and Silence sit under that Tier 1 tower being out-pressured by this Chiron Bacchus.
The Nike not bringing too much, while Trix gets very aggressive here in this lane. The Nike doesn't bring too much to where Taram feels like he needs to pick up the beats. The Blink is going to be his relic of choice, but adapting Daji is going to force everyone except for Sarpei into that beats relic because they're just that afraid of it.
It's Pal Lao, man. It's an insane ability to have for yourself. It's an insane one that you have to pick up in order to... it's an insane ability to have and forces you to pick up, especially if you don't have CC immunity, like a few of these gods in this game don't have, or I should say, namely just the main one here, Sap. And the support do not have that inherent CC immunity, so they're going to have to pick that up They don't want to get yanked in there, and it's an annoying ability to really have to deal with a lot of damage to output that. Not only the ability itself does, but then you got the follow-up right behind.
Right, and as Jamoja specifically, that is going to be one that is going to be super annoying. You really don't want to get pulled under because you have no sort of CC immunity available. At least Merlin, on the other hand, is also going to have to hold on to those beats. So Adapting is going to have a field day of choices when looking to who to pull here. It's going to be interesting because he kind of played off of Solo a bit, but this game, you know, there is a lot of options for this Gilgamesh to survive here. So we're going to have to see where Adapting turns its attention to as this Daji.
Asriel, after being bullied away by Terror and previously, gets a little bit of confidence to jump in the wave, and, well, a nice little bit of a healthier health bar to his name. Some Fizz defense online to get him going early, but it's all aggression in this duo lane, and Silence is the primary target of that aggression. A giddy up in from Spudio only kicks E-Chrome back and separates the two for just a moment, but now wants to regroup together, and Silence with a couple of Omi to his name will make sure to stay alive here in this 2v2. Trix and Spudio are just winning it every day of the week. Another aggressive flop in by the support, but now Trix is out of mana.
If the Chiron giddy up was a little bit easier to maneuver, that could have been a kill here, but here it is. Adapting found that aggression we were talking about.
The blink in and 1,000 cuts. He hits level 5, and if Silence were just a little closer, that might have been even more. First blood goes to Elysium. Asriel pushes Tarim under the tower, but all aggression here from Elysium, especially on this duo side.
And Sarpe has kind of just been lurking over here on this duo side. Away, should I go help? Should I not? No. Adapting beats you to it. If you're not going to rotate at all, go get those back camps. Those are your option at this point because you can't help this fight. Unfortunately, look, Sarpe's still lurking, just wasting farm. This is what Adapting does. If he beats you to that rotation and you can't do something, you got to go steal farm elsewhere because now you're just behind.
I mean, you're going up against not but one of the back camp bandits of the SCC here with Adapting. If Adapting sees you're fighting over on the left side, he's going to your back harpies. He's going to your speed buff. He's going to your blue buff. But Sarpe was just sitting on this left side of the map, getting a little bit of farm, but not a whole lot of it here. Does go back to base, and he'll be able to pick up his first full item of the maze tree. Curious where he will go be through. A Brawler's Beat Stick. Not usually the first item that we see picked up in that tree.
Yeah, well, sometimes you might think it's necessary. In this case, you're diving a Soul who has a lot of healing. No lifesteal yet. That could be a Spear of the Magus if that is the choice. There could be some lifesteal in that regard, but no Typhon's Fang or Bancroft start whittling their little heads from Angry just yet. So I do like the Brawlers, though. It's got the flat pen. It gives you everything you need, and of course, if there is any healing picked up, you know, that's going to be your target for that.
It's a Gilded Arrow start out of this Soul. We've seen so many different starter items out of this one god in particular. Yesterday we saw some mannequins, we've seen Gilded Arrows, I've seen Sands of Time, Vampiric Shroud. It seems you can go just about no wrong with this god on starters.
I can tell you that the Barracuda Sacrificial Shroud Soul build also slaps, and
that hurts.
Yeah, the Diamond Arrow is a great option if that's what you choose to go, and it helps you out with the farm. Remember, this was the starter of choice for quite some time back when crit was the meta. Of course, Saul can't really build into that crit, but it was a good ADC item is my point. So the gold into the flat just auto attack damage is going to be pretty sick on Saul if you are chunking with those autos, and it is going to be the Spear of the Magus, so we already do see that lifesteal built in and a lot of damage.
And a lot of single target damage there with it. You mark them up, and now they take just a little bit more from everybody around them, including anything that might be smacking them from outside the jungle. Speaking of the jungle, it's Elysium controlling both of the Scorpions. Those ones fall down and give that advantage over to Elysium's side of the map. So now we'll have that Gold Fury spawning in here in just a moment. Fire Giant will now spawn at his proper time of that 10-minute mark with his younger brother and the Pyromancer. So a little bit of solo slap boxing here between these two. It's a mystical male. The quote-unquote, and I'm quoting Scream on here, it's the infinite damage item of the mystical male here in the solo lane.
It's an infinite damage hack, man. If you think about it, if you stood next to Beazriel, eventually you would die, and it would keep going. However, one thing to note here, look at Spudio's build. That's not a Crusher, that's a Jotun's Wrath. There's going to be a lot of cooldown, a lot of damage there, but not that Crusher. Won't have any attack speed in that build. E-Chrome definitely has the boxing advantage, but is he going to be able to deal with the ability trading of a Chiron? Not likely, not with this start.
Especially with how much you'll be able to get those abilities up with Spudio because he goes for that cooldown route. But I don't think Hachiman is one of those gods that wants to have to sit here and box up against. Typically, we do see him picked up as a kind of safety caution, while Heimdall probably the most safe hunter out there as of now because of that Bifrost, because of the Gallarhorn. Then you think along the lines Jingwei probably right after from her safety, and then for my money, I'd put Hachiman immediately right after. I mean, that mounted archery can get him out of so many sticky situations. And Sap, he'll flicker back into lane, throw an Ice Bolt at Angry. Put a little bit of poke back onto him, but it's all mid-camp trade out here. Elysium is just controlling every aspect of the neutral farm in the jungle.
I really like this insurgence of med that we've been seeing, honestly, because we saw it a bit ago in NA, where I believe Sybil was getting it against Oates Alquang for the executes, right? But now, Trix is just picking it up to try to level some of this healing from Silence, from the Yemoja, and here comes Adapting Aterum, going to be chasing Azrael till the cows come home.
Azrael is not going to make it out of here. It's a blink from Tarum, a teleport in from Adapting, and 1,000 cuts to put him in the dirt. A second kill up now for Elysium, and a second one for Adapting as he holds 100% of that kill participation. A couple assists across the board. And Trix Tank, once again with the patent Trix Tank technique of just flopping on everybody he sees with no remorse for his own life.
I mean, yeah, he can spam all he wants. He's got that med cooldown ready. His mana is not an issue. He can keep on the chug, get those protections, get that power, and get those flopped going. I mean, Adapting's got the whole right side of the map taken care of, so why not just flop away? We know Sarpei's not here. We know Azrael just went back to base.
Azrael does go back and pick up a little bit of magical defense to try and counteract for when he does eventually join some of these earlier fights, namely towards these objectives, which have been such a hot topic between both of them. Gold Fury has been very hotly contested by both of these teams. Team Joystick able to get a couple of their own, a couple of steals from Trix Tank. And man, if you want to talk about a god of steals, a man of steals, he's back on one of the OGs of the days of objective steals. Now, we don't have Hand of the Gods in the same instance that we used to have way back when, but Bacchus, if you wanted to steal objectives, this was the god that you picked to do so.
Yeah, Bacchus definitely has some incredible bursts, but right now I'm looking at this incredible gold lead that is climbing. It looks like they're looking at these oracles, and they could even try to pull this Gold Fury here, but they are grouped in mid, so it would be difficult. Elysium has a lot of pressure, but I don't know if they have that much pressure.
1,500 gold and just as much experience that Elysium has up over Team Joystick here 9 minutes in. Silence will spot out Adapting, but there is a sentry ward that's keeping Silence ticked up here in vision. And with that ward being broken instantly, Silence has got to know there's a sentry somewhere nearby. He'll drop a Riptide just to get him and Sap back under the tower, but this has pretty much been Sap's home for the last 4 minutes of this game, has been sitting under this tier 1 tower just because Trix and Angry have been on his tower line the entire time.
You can tell Trix is feeling himself because he's already building into what I can only assume is going to be that Divine Ruin. He's got a flat pen item right after the Thebes. With the Belch, he's going to have 100% anti-heal almost, and not almost, it's going to be about 100%, and then he's going to be able to shut down that Yemoja healing, and he's going to be able to have so much damage. He could probably solo Sap once he gets that item online, just how much raw burst Bacchus has.
I mean, that Intoxicate does so much damage. You couple that with the belly flop Belch after. I mean, this is a guy, not just if you want to steal objectives, but if you want to take other people's lives without them realizing it. Trix Tank hitting level 9. Might go back and pick up some more towards that item. Otherwise, we're looking at Silence, who's sitting a little bit further behind in the Gauntlet of Thebes stacks and lacking a tier 1 item. He might even be lacking some health as he walks right into the mid lane, but a double Riptide puts him back towards safety. He does get stunned right out of the Riptide, but he'll be just fine sitting under tier 1.
I can keep making sure that Sarpei's pick is, or the pick and the choice of brawlers is paying off, because right now we got Angry building into that Typhons or Bancroft. But either way, just stacking more and more lifesteal. So at first I was like, Crusher is the obvious choice. There's not that much healing, but I'm starting to see exactly where the mindset was, because the more that gets online, the more you're gonna wish you had it.
Adapting in a 2v1. It's an ultimate out of Sarpei, but now he doesn't have the beads, and that's an easy kill and an easy pull right back. Spudio gets the last hit. The Supernova slams right down on top of Sap. He'll transform into the fire stance. But is that fire and the ocean coming up enough? The River's Rebuke crashed down, and Sap gets a little bit of health back, but not enough. Adapting rotates in with 1,000 cuts, and let's add some extra basic after that. Silence goes down. It's a 3-kill swing for Elysium, 5 up on the board, and 4 of those in Adapting's hand.
So unfortunate that Sarpei even took that fight, and look like Tarum is probably going to find a solo here. No mana available, and I doubt that Gilga's going to be able to
Farewell,
rush.
my friend.
Yep, see ya, back to base. Ekrum's the only one left to try to defend this, and Angry is just juking some shots. They are all pretty weak though, but okay. The dash is going to be expended if they pass it back and forth. This Gold Fury should be done.
This is close. That's close. There's not healthy enough for it. Adapting was too late to jump over. Gold Fury stands another day.
Goblin.
That small little bit of damage that Ekrum was able to throw back at Angry puts him at just critical enough health to where they cannot tank up that Gold Fury. So this one gets saved, not stolen away. Nobody dies, but nobody is able to benefit from that neutral farm.
I'm blaming Adapting 100%.
100%.
He
He
pushed
should've
the
been there.
wave. He got the left camps. That Gold Fury was free, but he said, you know what? I'm going for all this farm here. And all that fight started because Sarpe took that 1v1, or what he thought was a 1v1, because Spudio did end up making that rotation. But once Adapting went into the powwow, there's just nothing more you can do there. What are you going to wait for him to come down? And now Team Joystick makes a very risky call, and they are going to back up. Just Tricks alone was enough to back them off that objective.
I see that man walking to me. I'm walking away from anything that I'm standing around. Tricks Tank is a full level up. Divine Ruin to his name. Ekrom and Sarpe will double ult this Chiron under tower, and Sarpe will walk him down and make sure he falls. But now with a tier 1 tower gone away, some of that safe haven that Team Joystick had in that mid lane has been removed from the map. A 500 gold trade out for 1 kill, but maybe they can at least even it out and get a tower of their own. Tarum a little slow in his rotation to try and help out. It's tier 1 tower, but what more can Tarum grab? He'll chase down Sarpe. Sarpe needs that leap, but a nice little juke, break the ankle, and get 1 ultimate. But is that ult just enough? The Bluestone Pendant will be more than enough damage. Tarum at least trades out and gets 1.
I gotta tell you, that's probably the last person they expected to defend that tier 1 was Tarum. No teleport, just took the trek all the way over. Azriel's gotta be happy though. He gets some free farm over there and gets to steal away the blue buff. That tower living by a thread, but here's Adapting coming up behind.
It's a pincer maneuver in the mid lane. Sap already at half health before he even has a moment to think about what happened to him. Adapting blinks in and takes him down. Up on the powwow, only Silence left standing. A quick beach from the support, and a Riptide is going to be enough to get him out. But with Azriel here, can he turn the tide of the fight? The answer to that one is no, not really, because he doesn't have much health left to his name. Tarum will dive into tower, drop kick against the wall, and the Bluestone plus the Belch will be enough to take him down. 2 more kills for Team Joystick.
I mean, this is my exact issue with this Gilgamesh solo. I mean, we've seen it have some success, but I really feel like Gilga needs these items, these damage online to get this done. He's got the infinite damage hack, but it's just not enough. He's not going to be able to put up these King Arthur numbers, especially because he's this far behind. But that wasn't the rotation he needed to make. He was better off just farming at that point.
The Mystical Mail, the Emerald Talisman, and then the Tower Shield as the next item that he's starting to work towards. But Azriel is down 2 levels to Tarum. It's a 3-level gap in the jungle. Everybody is sitting behind on this right side of the map. It's only the dual lane that are able to at least maintain a bit of parity in their lane. Ekrom and Silence both sitting even levels as Tricks and Spudio. Mid-camps seem to have finally gone the way of Team Joystick after so much of Elysium controlling. And with all this control that Elysium has had, 4,500 gold up over Joystick.
Yeah, you gotta just look at this jungle solo disparity. That's where the most of this EXP is right now. And you can just see Adapting 2-level lead. It was 3 a second ago. It ticked over. Doesn't look as climbing of a mountain at this point, but there it is. Back to 17. 3-level lead. When you look at that Daji as Sarpe, do you ever think, I can kill that? No, definitely not. You're trying to fight elsewhere. Anywhere the 5-0 Daji is, anywhere the 3-0 King Arthur is, I do not want to be.
Yeah, wherever Adapting is on the map, I'm hoping I'm on the opposite corner of there because I don't want anything to do with this Daji, and I don't think either does Ekrom. He'll have to use the ultimate. Very scared of the potential re-engage out of Adapting and Spudio. And the Aegis will be on cooldown.
That was only 2 abilities. The 1,000 cuts didn't even hit. He had more. That damage was a lot, and like I said, it's just going to keep climbing at this point. Daji, not exactly an early game character. Her scaling is great. The more items she has, level 20, she's going to be hitting a lot harder. That 3-2 might just be one-shotting these carries at this point. The Pyromancer going to be looked at here. And I would argue there's only one person on the map. Maybe they could even go for FG with this damage that Adapting and Angry are doing.
Not much steal potential on the side of Team Joystick for really any of these objectives. You can maybe throw out a Winds of Shamash from Azriel to try and get it with a single tick. Ekrom from long range can maybe try and drop a banner, but by the time he's within range, he's probably already dead. Side of Team Joystick starting to fall a little bit further behind. Looking at a tier 2 tower on this left side, but Spudio's there to defend. He's not going to let this tower go down.
Yeah, they've been putting a lot of stock in this duo lane because they really can't fight elsewhere, right? You're not going to kill Angry. We've already mentioned that Tarum is pretty unkillable right now. They did dive the Chiron once. It's on the board. That's your 1 kill. They're trying to do it again, but Spudio, he's pretty wise to it at this point. He's going to stay back, and it looks like Trix is going to rotate over. Maybe they look for something over here, but they're not. They're trying to get back any way they can, and I don't think Spudio is going to be the answer. If they can somehow shut down either Tarum or Adapting, that is going to be their ticket back into this game.
Sap going for his flat pen item. He does have the percent pen with the Charon's coin, but he's gotten no value in the stack department of it. Will be a Divine Ruin for Sap to get a little bit of anti-heal towards the way of Angry specifically. No lifesteal built elsewhere on the map just yet. Just that sovereignty that could be affected by it, but most just trying to counteract some of the healing that Angry has brought to his own table. Has a Typhon's Fang, has that Spear of the Mages, and then just the heal that comes from that Radiance when he pops that first ability.
You know that trick that we always use, right, to see if you're farming good. Level 17 at 17, that's pretty solid. Level 18 at 17, that's when you know you're making moves. Adapting, they don't call him the king for no reason. He knows this map, he knows how to farm it well. These 5 kills are going to help, but I think he might be diving even farther.
Ooh, Trix Tank, watch out! E-Chrome, the king himself is here. That is the king of the supports. Trix Tank picks up one, and Angry has nowhere to go. A good collapse from Team Joystick, picks up the mid laner, but Terram is here to wreak havoc and cause terror for the rest of the team. Sap 7 has nowhere left to go. The 1,000 cuts from Adapting shred through him. Eye Silence has nowhere left to run, and Terram is the one who picks up the kill. It's Sarpé and Azrael, the only ones left alive to try and defend against this potential fire that Elysium's going for.
It's going to be a 2v4 here. The Samash is available. The winds are a decent tool here, but it looks like they are going to have a lot of DPS. Trix is on the zone duty. I do not know if they're going to be able to pull it off here, but Sarpé is going to be the first one to peek his head in.
Sarpé and Azrael are here, but they're going to turn their sights immediately towards the jungler. Sarpé does not have an ultimate and does not have a way out. The Powlow's damage and Spuddy are enough to take it away, but they do delay the Fire Giant for just a moment, and Azrael using that Wind of Shamash, his best chance at a steal has been stripped away, and now he's going to have to full commit himself if he wants to stop the objective, but it doesn't seem that Azrael is willing to do so. Fire Giant, 18 minutes, 45 seconds goes to Elysium.
Yeah, this was definitely the right call. E-Chrome just went right to purple, going to go get the farm in left lane. Azrael's going to try to get farm where he can. I mean, that steal, even in a movie, I don't think he would have got that steal. There's just no way.
Not enough plot armor?
Right, exactly. Not with the ult available at that point. You're just throwing another death on there. You don't want to be 0-4, right? Go get your farm. Give yourself your best chance, because right now, 2-13, you're down almost 10k at this point. I think it just ticked over to 10k. It's gonna be very rough.
Azrael, not the main protagonist of this team just yet, hasn't quite hit that plot armor status. Instead, it will be Team Joystick down nearly 8,000 gold plus over Elysium here. Just 19 minutes in the game, 9,000 experience, and all of that experience still very relevant, as we've only had one person, not even one person yet has hit 20. I thought Adapting might have hit it, but no, he's still only sitting 19. So all this experience still very meaningful in this gold to boot alongside Sarpé and Azrael, both going for a little bit of cooldown in their builds. Most likely going to be a Pridwin out of Azrael, where we saw the Erendite last time for Sarpé.
Sarpé, the only one on the board for this Team Joystick roster. It's going to be very difficult to put this in. They're not even going to go for the other tier 2s. They really don't have to. The lead is that massive where they can just run down this left Phoenix here, and they're going to start if they are going to go for it. Adapting does like to push that mid lane and take that 1v1 versus Sarpé that he wins 9 times out of 10, so it looks like that is going to be their option here, the 4-1 split.
Question is, who's going to be the initiator on the side of Elysium? Will it be Trix Tank? Will it be Terram? Will it be both of them? Who knows? Find out on the next episode of Sieging the Phoenix here in game number 3. Trix Tank does walk in first just to see if there is any zone. It's a 1v1 in the mid lane. There's not much more over here on this left side. A jump in from Azrael, and that might be the only thing that he gets to do, and it might be the only chance that Adapting has to go for a kill against Sarpé. He just needs to get the jukes away, and maybe Adapting just wants to go for the run. E-Chrome fires the arrow off the ultimate, but Adapting able to get around the wall to juke that out.
I will say that Sarpé always wins these trades up until the ult comes out, and then Adapting's fine. So you are able to send off a lot of damage with that ult, and you can eat it, but here comes the engage from Trix.
River's Rebuke comes out from Silence, but E-Chrome needs all the help in the world to stay alive. The shields and the heals are just enough to do so. Azrael down to half health. Terram being a menace in the backline, but with Sarpé rotating over, the Riptide's holding 3. The Phoenix still does go down. Team Joystick do not have enough defense to hold Elysium off.
I'm surprised E-Chrome ate that whole supernova there. Luckily, the Aegis came out at the last second, or that could have been a disaster. They probably could have got the mid Phoenix if they did get that pick, but it's going to be a 5v5 still. They will take the Oni Fury. The left Phoenix, the most important Phoenix in the game, is now down, and they are going to take their prize, and Elysium's going to back it up.
And what a good prize to get after that Phoenix. An Oni Fury with a Phoenix down means not only is there going to be a wave of fire minions now starting up the left lane, now it's going to be a wave of Oni fire minions, which are one of the worst things to deal with if you are not a damage dealer. It's going to take these frontliners eternity to clear one of those waves out, especially if that one does happen to be silenced, because, well, Umoja not really known for her damage output at this stage of the game. Really going to have to rely on Sap and Echrome to try and clear those out.
Yeah, hopefully we can get some people on Joystick to 20 before this next firefight, because as of right now, we've got Adapting at 20, we got Spudio at 20. I'm sure Angry and Terram are about to tick right over, and we have no one from Team Joystick over to 20. They don't have that crucial starter upgrade, and even Silence, who can get one at 17, is still 2 levels off at level 15, so no sort of power spike, and they might be running it down mid. They still have time.
Angry had so much gold in hand, he went back and full bought a Rod of Tahuti after that last fight. And with it, him and team will push up the mid lane while Adapting clears out the last tower on Team Joystick's side of the map. Right side, tier 2 gone. And it could be another Adapting versus Sarpei 1v1 on this defense, but they have Oni minions coming through. Sarpei's going to want to clear those. Elysium, now with the Fire Giant buff falling off their waist, they will retreat back and strip away everything else in the jungle. Back Harpies, Scorpion, Pyromancer, you name it, it's theirs.
Yeah, I mean, even though they probably could have done that siege, I think a 4-1 split would have worked. Might as well let the Fire minions push, check their levels. All of them just ticked over to starter item buff level, where we got Trix at 17. Every other person on their team is level 20. They all have that option. They probably were sitting on a lot of gold anyways. Might as well just take that, because even though your fire wave wasn't pushed up, once you get this next fire, which I'm assuming they will try to contest one of those half contests where someone pushed left and all 4 come, it's not going to be good for them. Adapting is just doing way too much damage at this point.
And it's going to be a Bumba Spear out of Adapting and Spudio, so that's a huge cooldown and penetration power spike going their way. Trixtang still hasn't gotten his, and neither has Terram leveled up his, but he did get a Mantle of Discord instead. It's going to give him a ton of extra protections and really start feeding in to that Pridwin and give him a lot of extra bonus. Angry, 1 death to his name, 4 assists, and 3rd on the damage charts. A lot of this player damage has been led by the way of Terram and Adapting. With right side and with their left Phoenix down, Team Joystick don't even make an attempt to try and take this Fire Giant away. They don't even make an attempt to try and fight them there. They're going to hedge all their bets on these last 2 Phoenix defenses.
Yep, the Phoenix defense is really all they have at this point. They do have a bit of a shining light. Sarpei and Echrome ticked over to 20. The power pots have been purchased. They think this is their last stand. Might as well get as much damage as we can, and here comes the Phoenix Siege from Elysium.
They're going to send all 5 to the right side, Adapting all by his lonesome in the mid. Sarpei will have to rotate over to try and help him out. Sarpei did pick up a red buff of his own, so he's got a little bit of extra fighting power against Adapting with a couple of red pots, as you were talking about, picked by Sarpei and Echrome. Maybe they are thinking that this could be their last stance. It's Adapting versus Sarpei in the 1v1, and Sarpei is not winning that one out. He will use the ultimate. He's got his beads to get away, but that's ult for ult out of the junglers.
I think there's 2 built-up fire waves in left right now. The time is ticking. They have to win this fight quick to defend that or get out.
There's no defense enough for the Phoenix. It still does manage to stand on its last limb, but all it's going to take is 1 more base to clean that one up. Left side Phoenix respawn and then immediately goes down right afterwards. Elysium, they've got to send somebody to try and stop this fire wave because it's about to start pouring into the throne room.
The right Phoenix living with 1 tick, and this Adapting does not have his ult up, so Sarpei is going to be able to win those trades, no doubt. But right now the siege has begun and Trix blinks in.
Trix goes in, gets 2 with the Intoxicate, gets 2 with the damage. Echrome up on the horse, but it's not going to save his life. He goes right into Terram's grasp. Adapting gets 1, and it's already 2 down for Team Joystick. The Supernova zones away the 2 healthier members. With Azrael here, it's going to be a 3 versus 5 on the Titan defense, but the Titan is already down to half. Terram swipes in, Angry, eliminating Sap off the map. He still stands, but the Titan does not have that same luxury of getting the health back. It's going to be game number 3 and the set going to Elysium.
I mean, that's just what you'd expect at this point. The veteran Adapting in the jungle. He knows what to do. He knows after game 1 what's going to happen. He made the adjustments, got his solo ahead. Terram and Adapting they just did whatever they wanted that game, and it didn't seem like they had anything that could stop them.
No, Elysium, same as yesterday. Lose game number 1, but then come back swinging hard in games number 2 and 3. They're able to close out this set, get themselves a spot in that grand finals. They get the 1-game advantage, but I think most important for them is they get that shot at the World Championship qualifiers. They've now been able to make that run there. We're going to go ahead and take it to a break. We'll come back to Des to close out set number 2.
Oh, game 3 goes on over to Elysium. Aggro and I just having a bit of a joke there between
Just another
the
day
break.
at the
Just
office.
another day at the office for Aggro and I. Look, another day at the office feels like the case for Elysium here, where you lose game 1 and then you win game 2 and 3. Why not? You need to have some pressure on yourselves, is what I'm gathering for Elysium here. You got to add some pressure in game 1, and then game 2 and 3, you'll turn things around. And it's also the trend, Aggro, that game 3 hasn't been particularly close. Like game 1, they get this one wasn't a crushing in game 1. They lost. Game 2, a little bit more back and forth, and then game 3, they just dominate.
Dominate from beginning to end. And this is just what this team does. When it comes down to these high-pressure situations, I think that this team veteran mentality really starts to shine through, and you just see how little pressure they feel throughout the match. And adapting goes back to the tried and true, man. This dodge E for adapting has just looked unstoppable. The same thing I was worried about with Sarpei on this Nike jungle. It just never even comes close to matching the pressure of adapting on this dodge E. And the Merlin first pick, anytime you see a Merlin on the other side, dodge E's already looking pretty good. Then you lock in things like Yamoja and Gilgamesh, and all of a sudden this dodge E pick starts to look awfully solid.
Terem on King Arthur, I think, also looks incredibly solid throughout not only game 2, but game 3 here as well. This is now a pick that whether it's Team Joystick or a different opponent in the grand finals, then Elysium will hope to get the King Arthur on their side, and those two teams will have to potentially ban it away. Kazakh Fan Club is the name that I'm looking for there. At any rate, Terem has a fantastic game 3 here, establishes some dominance in that lane, and keeps the ball rolling forward. Here's the good news for Elysium Aggro. They have one game in hand moving into a best-of-5 tomorrow in the grand finals. And so game 1's already out of the way.
Right. But they won it. So now maybe they have to lose. They shouldn't have to lose 2 in a row, should they? In order to get the pressure on them?
That's right. I'm trying to think, because I equate it to sort of the Scarab's curse in the SPL.
Yes.
And they always lose game 1. I feel like they've won a game 1 recently and then still ended up losing maybe game 2 and game 3 after
During
that.
the regular season, I think that's true. But
yeah, maybe. Who knows? Group stage is
postseason.
around the corner.
Man,
Elysium.
14K for adapting. That's good.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly not bad.
Yeah, I'll
right?
agree with that.
And it's also good at the same time. Those two
Yes.
things can be true at the same time. Adapting, playing some of his best Smite in this tournament at the right time. And now you've beaten both of the teams you could potentially face in the grand finals, both of them in 3-game sets. I think it's needless to say that this team is playing with the confidence that they will just win the whole tournament.
As they should, because if they play their brand, they will. They just have all year long. You know, it's not even just about the pedigree of these names, though obviously that should be a factor. It's that if you took the player names off, and you just watched the way that these 5 players A through E, have played throughout this year, they would be the favorites to win this tournament. There's no doubt about it.
Right. Name pedigree carries expectations with it, and meeting those expectations is what's important, and Elysium have met those expectations. Trixtank, one of the players who carries some of that name pedigree alongside. Trix, first and foremost, thanks for sitting down with me. Look, I want to start it up with what's been a big talking point for us here on the desk. Elysium and game 1. What's the deal here? You guys, you need a little bit of pressure at your back to turn things around?
I don't know. We've always had a hard time with the game 1s. This time I really try my hardest dealing a goal through and a fire giant, but my team really don't like winning the game 1, so you just gotta let that go and then move on.
That's right. You did your best, and that's all you can focus on. Aggro's here with me, and with love, earlier on this weekend, he described your positioning, again, with love, sometimes as degenerate. Do you care to comment on that?
I mean, that is somewhat true. I mean, I tend to, when we get ahead, I tend to not care, and especially when I'm on a god like Bacchus, you know, I like just going in because you can literally solo people, especially with the pen item online early. So I can tend to agree with that comment.
That's right. And again, with love. Yeah, with love. Miss you, Trix. Final thoughts here, Trixtank. You've already beaten both of the teams you could potentially face in the finals. Do you have a preference between the two who you would rather end up facing in the grand final match?
We actually thought that what they call Goodnight Nick was going to make the finals, so we prepared mostly for them. But the other teams are looking super great. So I don't know who I would prefer. I don't really care, honestly. It's
confidence
just going to be a good match no matter what, and hopefully we're going to win. So bring it on. Excited for it.
Trixtank, congrats on the win. I'll let you go celebrate.
Thank you.
Elysium continue to roll here. It's going to be a good matchup. And I like that Tricks Tank aggro. He agrees with you there. He says,
Listen,
you know
man,
what, sometimes
he's been around the
you're
block.
right.
He gets it, you know?
This is far from the first time you've described his positioning as aggressive, I'm sure, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's probably not even the first time I've described something Trix does as degenerate. Maybe the first Smite thing I've described as degenerate from Trix, but certainly not the first.
Certainly not the first. Let's take a look back at the schedule so far in EU here. Needless to say, it's been a lot of 3-game sets. We've had 4 sets over in EU. All of them have gone 3 games. And so we've seen a little bit of everything here, except for 2-game sets. Kazakhstan Club versus Team Joystick Aggro. That'll be the next matchup. We're going to get a look at that one tomorrow.
Yep.
And I think suddenly becomes a very interesting matchup where this Kazakhstan Club team up against Team Joystick in the lower bracket, I guess finals is the word we'll use to describe it. They kind of come out of nowhere, having the Kazakhstan Club.
Yeah.
Vaporshko described them as the SEC rejects, but this is playing like a team with something to win.
They really have a lot to prove, I think. I think they're playing really good Smite. Joystick, I think that when they're playing at their best, they have impressed me the second most in this region outside of Elysium. But as far as just this weekend of games go, I think we're seeing the SOC team go to the finals tomorrow.
If they keep playing the way that the Kazakhstan Club, I'd be hard-pressed to disagree with you. So we've had a couple of EU matches already today. We sent one team home. We sent one team on to the finals. We can't just do it for EU. We got to do it for NA as well. What is the NA schedule looking like? Because we had a whole lot of fun yesterday. The one and only 2-game set of the weekend was Sleekness's 2-0 win over the Winter Dogs. And then we move on immediately into a 3-game set where the Herculean Hoofs win up against the Sturdy Artisans. And that means that the Winter Dogs versus the Sturdy Artisans aggro will be our first matchup over here in North America. And NA is just such an interesting region to watch, where you look at the Winter Dogs, rather. That's your first seed team, who got knocked out by the 4th seed SEC team.
Right.
And then the Sturdy Artisans, a team with plenty of name recognition, as we've come to talk about here with EU. So Winter Dogs versus Sturdy Artisans in a knockout match, certainly a treat for us here.
It's going to be a lot of fun, man. NA is so wide open. We don't have that absolute dominant force like we do over in Europe, so it really opens things up. You never really know exactly what you're going to get. I really think the Sturdy Artisans, game 1, they didn't look great in the early game, but had a pretty cohesive late game. I'm going to be looking for the Winter Dogs duo links. I think they really struggled yesterday. I'm going to see what adjustments they've made coming into a do-or-die match.
It is Crimson's birthday.
It is.
Do you think you get a birthday boost? Is that a thing?
A birthday buff. I think we could surely Vinny would be okay if we just gave him a little bit of extra gold as a birthday present.
I think so. I think that's how it works out. Well, we'll see if Crimson and the rest of his team
just
are able
having
to
a joke.
That's right. You caught me off guard. We'll see if Crimson and the rest of the boys get a birthday buff. NA matches coming up next.